If I could have your attention for a minute. There's quite a few people here tonight, and I'm sure most of you, if you're going to want to talk, what we ask you to do is fill out a card up here on the podium. And if you're going to talk on an agenda item, put the agenda number down, and if you're for or against the project. Otherwise, if you just want to talk on oral communications, other things that come to the Planning Commission other than agenda items, still fill out a card, and we'll put you people on first. Thank you. What's that?
I know, and you know, it's I don't know because well, first of all, it's the I just know 3 words. I mean, that's a good conversation.
Everybody have a chance to grab a card, fill it out, and turn it in to the staff? Thank you. Gentlemen.
Sure. Okay.
Since you asked me so nicely, of
More letters.
More letters. I received this yesterday.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to call to order the meeting of the West Covina Planning Commission for Tuesday, April 24th at 7:05 p.m. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence after. Thank you. May we have roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Hing? Here. Commissioner Jimenez?
Present.
Commissioner Redholz?
Here.
Commissioner Castellanos?
Here.
Chairman Holtz?
Here. Approval of minutes for regular meeting March 27th. Any additions or corrections? If not, they stand approved. This brings us to oral communications. This is the time when the people can speak on a non-agendized item. Does anybody wish to speak on a non-agendized item tonight? No? Okay, fine. We'll close oral communications. It takes us to public hearings. The first item is administrative use permit number 1730, planning director's modification number 17-40, categorical exemption. Applicant is Eric Little, J5 Infrastructure Partners, location 1027 East Amar Road. The request is for approval to construct a rooftop wireless facility at the existing AutoZone. There will be 9 antennas installed on the facility, including other mechanical equipment that will be screened by a rooftop-mounted clock tower. Additionally, a new equipment shelter will be installed at the rear of the commercial site. May we have a staff report, please?
Yes, our Associate Planner, Christine Delastrinos, will be presenting that report.
All right, good evening, Chairman and Planning Commissioners. Tonight I will be presenting to you Administrative Use Permit number 17-30 and Planning Director's Modification number 17-40. The mentioned entitlements are requested for 1027 East Amar Road. The applicant is requesting an administrative use permit for a roof-mounted antenna facility above the existing commercial building. Additionally, a planning director's modification for minor modifications to an existing commercial plaza, which would be basically modifying an existing enclosure for the mechanical equipment. Seeing that the mentioned entitlements are ministerial, the planning director elected that the request go before the Planning Commission tonight due to its visibility impact in its neighborhood, in its surrounding neighborhood. The request is categorically exempt under Class 3 for new construction or conversion of small structures in that it consists of the installation of a roof-mounted antenna facility above an existing building. There were no letters, calls, or emails of concern received by staff during the public notification period. The proposed clock tower will be The proposed clock tower will be located on an existing shopping center property of 247,899 square feet, about 6 acres, east of Valinda Avenue and north of Amar Road. The shopping center is located on the south portion of the city, adjacent to the city boundary. The total building area is about 68,420 square feet, and the proposed clock tower will be located in the east portion of the commercial building, above the AutoZone and 99-cent store. Another anchor tenant of the plaza is Stater Brothers. The plaza is surrounded by single-family residential neighborhoods. The applicant is proposing to construct a roof-mounted antenna facility as a clock tower on an existing commercial plaza. The proposed clock tower will be screening a new wireless telecommunications facility that will allow for the following equipment: to install 2 RBS Telco PPPC cabinet within an existing enclosure at grade, antennas at the clock tower, and a 40-foot tall clock tower from the bottom of the grade, 9 antennas, 3 per sector within the clock tower, 6 RRUs. They would run the power and fiber cables from the proposed equipment area to each sector, and they will all be underground or shielded or screened by its screening, and to modify the existing enclosure to remove and replace existing chain link roof with solid roof cover of a Spanish tile to match the existing architecture of the building. And here we have photo simulations showing where the clock tower will be and a before and after. So this is before and here's after, you could see that the clock tower is consistent with the architectural style of the plaza. Here's a site plan showing where it will be located. And then its relation to the enclosure where all the ancillary mechanical mechanical equipment will be located. The mechanical equipment will be located in an existing enclosure. They're just going to be occupying that space. So it's right next to the trash enclosure. We asked that the applicant provide a solid roof cover. Since we do not allow chain link fencing anymore in the city, it adds to the aesthetic value of the area. So that's why they're proposing the solid Spanish tile cover. And here you could see it from the residential neighborhood and basically what the residencies would be viewing of the clock tower. So this is the north portion and the south portion. We asked that the applicant provide more architectural detailing on the clock tower, and so they did that by providing some corbels and by doing some faux, I guess, wrought iron detailing, like windows, on the other elevations where there would not be an analog clock. And so here are the other elevations. And here is the enclosure which the ancillary equipment will be located in. And here's a more focused photo or simulation of the clock tower. They would be using Spanish roof tiling, wood fascia, and stucco molding to be consistent with the center. So, in conclusion, the proposed clock tower will have a building footprint of 256 square feet and will have a maximum height of 45 feet from the grade of the building. The existing building is 18 feet 10 inches in height, and the clock tower would extend above the existing building from the parapet wall 26 feet 2 inches. The proposed tower is 16 feet by 16 feet. The clock tower will be consistent in architectural design, color, and materials to the existing architecture of the shopping center. The clock tower will maintain a mansard roof style with Spanish tile roofing material. The clock tower will incorporate architectural detailing such as corbels below the top roof line, second mansard roof wrapping, and molding and faux window features throughout the elevations, as I said. The applicant is requesting a planning director's modification for the minor site improvements, which include the trash enclosure. And so the proposed wireless facility is designed as a clock tower that is consistent with the architectural style of the plaza. The location and design of the facility will enhance the subject property since it will complement existing structures and provide for an additional architectural feature in the plaza. The roof-mounted antenna facility is designed as a stealth facility and complies with the required 100-foot separation from residential uses. The proposed facility would increase capacity for those customers using T-Mobile wireless. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving administrative use permit number 17-30 and approve Planning Director's modification number 17-40, subject to the following conditions listed in the staff report. If you have any questions, I am more than happy to answer them, and I believe that the applicant is not present. So I will try my best to answer.
Are there any questions of staff at this time? Commissioner Reynolds?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are they planning to cover all of the trash enclosures?
I believe they're only planning on covering the portion that they're leasing.
Okay, so the other ones will remain with the chain link.
Yes, I'm unsure. I would have to ask Jeff to see if there would be a way that we can implement us to have them do all of it, but I'm assuming it's just that portion since that's the only portion that they're leasing or that they're responsible for.
Okay, and since they're not here, I'll ask you, is it possible to, for co-location?
For co-location, yes, I believe it is possible for co-location in that facility.
Okay, but right now, as proposed, it's simply a T-Mobile.
It's simply just T-Mobile, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Commissioner Hung?
Yes, I have a question regarding that particular. Sorry. Thank you. That particular zoning, I noticed that, and I've been living here for years, so I know the area pretty well. The zoning is predominantly single stories on the north, the south, and I believe on the east. So I guess my question is, this particular area or this particular shopping center is a neighborhood commercial use. So I guess the zoning code requirements for this particular commercial area, it seems like it's only allowed 1 story. Is that correct? It seems like, because I don't see a 2-story structure in this particular shopping center, so it can be consistent.
Okay, is that,
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure you said everything. It's not necessarily zoned for a 1-story neighborhood or a 1-story commercial building. I think what ended up happening is that the existing commercial plaza is 1 story, but that there's no, I guess you could say, requirement or anything that's holding it back from being,
Well, we
from
have a
allowing a
zoning-
2-story.
I guess my question is, we have a zoning code.
Yes.
What is the height
maximum
limits
height?
at that particular area? Do you know?
I believe in an NC zone, which is neighborhood commercial, we don't have any maximum height for that area or for that zone.
Jeff, do you have an answer?
Yeah, that's the correct answer. Actually, we talked about this a couple of months ago when we talked about the Code Amendment 1405 for entitlement processing. There is no height limit in our commercial and non-residential and manufacturing zones, only in relation to single family, and this is 100 feet away, and that's this separation. So there is a height limit within that, which is, I don't know it off the top of my head, it's probably 35 or 45 feet, but outside the 100 feet, there's no height limit.
Okay, that's the new code that got.
No, that's the code now.
Okay.
The Planning Commission and the City Council determined not to set a height limit. That was a discussion we had at the Planning Commission, whether there should be a height limit set. And the Planning Commission decided not to, and the Council adopted what the Planning Commission recommended. So they didn't change that either. So it's the existing code, and the code will not change because there was no direction to do that. The single-family development, that's an R1 zone. It allows for 2-story construction. I don't know if there's any, we didn't research and find out if there's any houses north of the site within the city that are 2-story. There may be, there may not be.
Okay.
On the south and on the west is not the city of West Covina, it's county unincorporated area. So, but I'm sure their zoning standards would also allow 2-story.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Questions of staff? No? Okay. Is the applicant present? Okay, if the applicant's not present,
Yeah, I thought
is
she
there
was
anybody
done.
want to speak in favor of the project? Does anyone want to speak against the project? If not, I'll close it to public testimony and open it up to commission discussion. Who would like to go first? Excuse me.
Maybe I just make a comment. We did expect the applicant to be here because
Yeah.
Christine talked to that person today.
Yeah,
So
I've been talking to him, emailing
I'm
him.
not sure what the situation is. You have a couple options. You can go ahead with the hearing if you feel comfortable with that. You could postpone the hearing and allow the other 2 hearings to go first and finish up with this hearing. In other words, switch the order of the agenda tonight.
I like that because I have a few questions to ask.
So that would be the question. It would be up to the decision of the Planning Commission what you'd like to do.
Any suggestions from the commission? What would you like to do?
Yes, I would like to move the order so that I do have some questions for the applicants.
Okay, so you want to move it to the end? Is
Yes,
that what
we
you're
could
saying?
do that.
Any problems with that? Okay, we will close it then at this point in time and move this agenda item till the end.
I think I would leave it open. Just say, leave the hearing open, and we'll postpone it till the end of the meeting tonight. That way, it allows the applicant to speak.
Right,
And anybody
okay.
Well,
else.
let me ask you this, if we do not move it to the end, we just have our discussions right now without the applicant?
We can.
You can,
rule on
but
it right
but if
now
you have
without-
discussion, I would recommend you make a decision and then not hold it over. If you want to have discussion, you should have the applicant present so you can ask them questions.
Commissioner Jimenez?
If I may just chime in here a little bit. If we start deliberating at the moment with the idea that we may postpone it for some point in time later, we may not allow ample time for the applicant. I would suggest one of 2 things. Either we decide to not talk about or continue talking about it in any way, shape, or form and just push it off to the end. and then we can pick up whatever the discussion points is. I guess if we start talking about the merits right now, we're almost placed in a situation where we start to have, we may have to start deliberating on our decision. That would be my recommendation. So not, as you say, shut our flaps here and maybe continue it later on down the road.
If we postpone it to the end and the applicant's not here, can we postpone it to the next meeting?
That would be your prerogative.
Or we can decide at
Well, we
that time.
can decide to now as well.
You can make whatever decision you want at that point, or you could decide now as well. Yeah, I think it'd probably be best maybe for the commission to just to vote on it, but if you just decide to hold it over, just keep the hearing open.
I make a recommendation then that we postpone it till the end of the meeting at this point in time. Any objection?
No objection, I agree with that.
Same here.
Okay, doing that.
Yeah.
We'll take us to item number 3, administrative use permit number 17-45, categorical exemption. Applicant, I can't pronounce the first name, last name is Tong. Location 2541 Alena Avenue. The request for approval of an administration use permit for a second-story addition to allow a deck and a sunroom to be located to the rear of an existing single-family residence. May we have a staff report, please?
Yes, our associate planner, Christine Delstrinos, will present that report as well.
All right, good evening again. This time we'll be discussing a house. The applicant is requesting an administrative use permit for maximum unit size exception MUSE, a second-story balcony exceeding 200 square feet, and a second-story addition for lots with a lot area under 20,000 square feet. The maximum allowable unit size is 3,999 square feet, or 50% of the lot, whichever is last. The subject property is 5,748 square feet. Therefore, the maximum allowable unit size for the property is 2,874 square feet. An administrative use permit is required for a maximum unit size exception when the proposed addition exceeds the maximum allowable unit size. Additionally, an administrative use permit is required for a second-story addition and balcony that exceeds 200 square feet, where the applicant is proposing a 230 square foot balcony. The municipal code requires the approval of an administrative use permit for the second-story balcony. The balcony will have a 4-foot railing along the north and west elevation. Additions made to the front of the elevation and to the second story of the residential property are required to be reviewed by the Subcommittee Design Review Board. The proposal was reviewed by the Subcommittee Design Review Board on February 27, 2018. Subcommittee directed staff to continue the administrative use permit process of mailing the public notifications for the 10-day public review period. Subsequently, to return the application to the Subcommittee Design Review Board meeting once the public review period closed with any public input. Staff were prepared and mailed out notices to the surrounding property owners on March 1st, 2018. During the public review period, staff received 9 email requests for a public hearing. The public requests included concerns of illegal construction, public nuisance, obstruction of neighboring views, and inconsistency to existing neighboring architectural designs. The proposal was therefore scheduled for the Planning Commission review. Additionally, we received an email of concern for the architectural design of the house yesterday, which is before you tonight. I gave that to you a little bit earlier. This project is categorically exempt under the California Environmental Quality Act for new construction or conversion of small structures. That the project consists of remodeling an existing single-family residential home on an individual property. The existing house was built in 1976 in the PCD1 zone. The house currently has 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. The first story includes a bedroom, bathroom, family room, living room, kitchen, and 2-car garage. The second story includes 1 master bedroom with an exclusive bathroom, 2 bedrooms, and 1 bathroom. The proposed additions will include extending the first-story living room, adding a 392-square-foot open patio on the first story, adding a new 230-square-foot balcony on the second floor, and adding a new 140-square-foot sunroom on the second floor. In October 3, 2017, a stop work notice was issued by the building department. On December 15, 2017, the applicant submitted an administrative use permit application for the proposed additions that they were constructing illegally. The applicant has stopped construction and is continuing to work with staff on the processing of the administrative use permit for the proposed addition, balcony and second-story sunroom addition, which is what you have before you. The subject property consists of a 5,748 square foot lot. The existing two-story home is 2,706 square feet and is in a two-story neighborhood in Planned Community Development 1 zone. The house with the proposed addition will be 2,924 square feet, including a 450 square foot two-car garage. The applicant is proposing the following improvements, which is the first floor addition, and to legalize the second-story addition and sunroom. And to construct an open patio. The proposed additions consist of a stucco and stone veneer siding on the front elevation to comply with the subcommittee design review guidelines. The roof pitch of the proposed sunroom will differ from the existing house's roof pitch to provide for a high ceiling windows. Staff recommended a roof pitch that is consistent with the existing residence, but the applicant was determined to retain the proposed roof pitch to maximize their viewing opportunities. The proposed addition is in compliance with all requirements. The proposed first floor addition will be 25 feet from the east front yard property line, 5 feet 8 inches from the north side yard property line, and 29 feet from the south yard property line. The proposed second floor addition will be 24 feet from the west rear yard property line, 10 feet from the north side yard property line, and 11 feet and 8 inches from the south yard property line. Staff surveyed the surrounding neighborhood of the subject property and found that the area consists primarily of two-story single-family houses that were constructed in 1976. Additionally, a majority of the residential homes located along Elena Avenue, which is where the property is located, maintain a second-story balcony. The following chart shows the mean and median lot size, square footage of the homes, number of bedrooms, and floor area ratio of the surveyed homes that surround that subject property. The mean is the average of all 18 homes, and the median is the number that falls directly in the middle of listed numerically in order. The houses that were surveyed are located along Elena Avenue and Evelyn Avenue. The median size of the homes is 2,407 square feet. The house sizes range from 1,776 square feet to 2,565 square feet. The lot sizes of the surveyed homes range from 5,258 square feet to 7,218 square feet, while the lot size of the subject property is 5,748 square feet. Floor area ratios range from 27 to 49%, and the proposed floor area ratio of the subject property is 50%. The house, as proposed, would be 1.25 times larger than the average size of the surrounding surveyed homes of 2,335 square feet. Although the proposed house would be 1.25 times larger than the average house, the house would be 1.14 times larger than the largest home in the neighborhood, that is 2,565 square feet. Again, I don't think it's often that we review houses that are in PCD1 zones, so if hearing lot coverage that is 50% is kind of wild, it's actually allowed in that zone to have a lot coverage of 50%, and also the setbacks. So the setbacks and the lot coverage requirement is different than what you typically see. So I just wanted to get that clarified for you. So the next slides will be basically the plans, and here we go. So this is the existing versus the proposed. You will see that the proposed additions are located in the front elevation as well as the rear. They're just extending the front portion just a little bit. So they're using the existing roof line and they're just going to be adding into what's below. And also you see where the open patio will be, the balcony, and the proposed sunroom, which will be accessed from the second floor from the rear bedrooms. And so there's the roof line plan. I thought that would be beneficial to see that it's basically using what is existing, or at least for the front portion. Here is the front elevation. In order to comply with subcommittee design review guidelines, the applicant is proposing to have or to incorporate alternative materials such as stone veneer siding along the front elevation. Here's the east elevation where you'll see the proposed balcony as well as the sunroom. And yeah. You also, I think this is a great image to see the elevation, how the sunroom is going to have a different roof pitch as well as that high ceiling that the applicant is proposing. Here's the north elevation showing the difference in the roof pitch as well as what the applicant is aiming to achieve with a sunroom on the second story, as well as the proposed balcony. And here's the south elevation. The subject property lies on a 5,748 square foot lot. The existing two-story home is 2,706 square feet and is located in a two-story neighborhood in the PCD1 zone. The house with the proposed addition will be 2,924 square feet, including a 450 square foot two-car garage. The additions include a first floor addition to the front elevation of 78 square feet and a second story addition of 140 square feet. The second story addition is proposed to be a sunroom. Additionally, the applicant proposes to add a second story balcony that exceeds 200 square feet, whereas the proposed balcony is 230 square feet. The house requires an administrative use permit for maximum unit size exception, a second story balcony that exceeds 200 square feet, and second story sunroom. Although the proposed house would be 1.25 times larger than the average house size, the house would be similar in size as the largest home. The proposed second-story balcony, first-story addition, and second-story addition are all in compliance with the municipal code. However, the architectural style of the proposed second-story addition, which is a sunroom, is not consistent of the existing house and neighboring houses. Staff recommends that the approval of Administrative Use Permit number 1745 and Subcommittee Design Review number 17-81, but with the following condition: that the 140 square foot second story sunroom addition at the rear of the residence shall maintain a consistent roof pitch, material, and style as the existing single-family residence. So I believe that the applicant is here as well as the designer. So if you have any questions of them, they are here and they're ready to answer. And I'm also here to answer any questions. Thank you.
I just want to verify that they were told to cease and desist back in September of 17.
I believe they had a stop work order in October.
October 17?
Yeah, October of 2017. Let me just...
Was that order to cease and desist all construction
Yes.
at that time?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's October 3, 2017. They got the notice, and then on December 15, 2017 was when they submitted their plans to the planning department.
But they weren't approved at that time?
They weren't approved at that
Okay.
time.
There are any questions of staff? Commissioner Jimenez.
Christine, just to confirm, your recommendation this evening is calling for a redesign of that sunroom, correct?
Yes.
And second, was that was discussed with the applicant prior to this hearing?
Yes. So when I received the application, I already recommended that they redesign the proposed sunroom just due to the fact that I had a feeling that there would be some major concerns. However, the applicant insisted that they continue with their proposal, so we went before the subcommittee design review. So the board, during subcommittee design review, decided that they continue with the administrative use permit process to see if they could get public input. And during that public notification was when we received quite a number of public input in terms of requesting the public hearing as well as concerns for the consistency of the architectural design.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
So the steel girders are up already, right?
Yes, they are. So since the building department did request a stop work order, that means that all the construction that was done illegally or prior to them submitting is still there. So it's definitely a stopped work construction.
Thank you. Any other questions, staff? Commissioner Redholz.
Yeah, thank you. So as of right now, the applicant still does not want to make that change to the sunroom roof as we speak?
I don't want to speak for her, but I believe, yes, she still wants that sunroom.
Okay. And just for clarification, we are using, or you're using the term legalize.
Yes.
Second story addition, legalize the second story balcony, we're using that terminology because these endeavors are undertaken without the proper
Yes.
permits.
Yes, so we're using the term legalized due to the fact that it is technically existing already. So now they are going through the process to legalize it, or to legalize their construction, yeah.
Anyone else? No? Okay. Is the applicant is here, hopefully? Okay, would you like to come up and speak? No, you have to come up here to the mic. Please state your name, and after you're done talking, I'd ask you to fill out one of those cards. Not right now.
My name is Jami Kong. Basically, we started remodeling since 2016 when my mother bought a house. Right in between, I got pregnant like last year. That's why, when right before the cease to construction order was issued, the project's already been still for like major part of 2017. So we basically stopped working in early 2017. And the reason I would prefer not making too much change to the existing roof line is because the structure part of the sunroom's already in place. As already reflected in the drawings. It's just not having put the windows and the walls back on yet. So obviously, if we make any changes right now, it's gonna drastically increase the construction costs and also prolong the period, for the, obviously, the construction sites had been a nuisance for the neighbors, as I received some complaints. As far as I'm concerned, I wish, whatever plan we come up with today, it could be just contribute to the sooner of the finish of the construction.
Okay, but you understand you're the one that caused the problem. You never got permits or anything when you started. And did I understand you to say you started in 2016?
Yeah, we actually got a permit in 2016 for the first floor structure part of it. And then we already have the existing patio roof, which was already falling apart, and we also have the unpermitted sunroom that built by the previous owner when I bought the house. You can still find those pictures on the realtor website these days. It's from the old structures. So it started with me really try to finishing up. Not like finishing up, just to repair and make a more structurally sound of the existing thing that when I when I got the house from the previous owners, and then I talked to my contractor, and they were supposed to be in charge of obtaining all the required permit, but it turned out they only get the permit for the downstairs, and before they start like tearing things for the outside. So it's only until when I got the order, and then I inquired into the city to find out we don't have a permit for the outside, the patio part.
So you thought you had a permit in 2016 to do the inside of the house?
Yeah, I do have a permit.
Is that, can I verify that with staff?
We're not aware of any permits, but we didn't research necessarily past what was before us tonight.
Come on. Does anybody have any questions of the applicant? Commissioner Reynolds?
Yeah, thank you. So you purchased the home when?
2016.
And at what point from then did you start?
Right after, it changed hands.
Uh-huh. And are you using a licensed contractor?
When I first started, the contract was referred by my realtor. I believe, he's not licensed. And then later on, he found a licensed, he found a licensed engineer do the drawing for the downstairs permit. That's what they were doing at the time, And yeah, that's to answer your question.
So so the contractor is not licensed?
Yeah, when 2016 is not licensed. But later on, when we carry on, because I learned my lesson with the first contractor, the next contractor I hire his license.
Okay, so no, I mean, are you aware that there's a process that you need to pull permits and that it has to be inspected and that there's codes that have to be
Right.
followed?
Yes, back 2016, because what we're doing is, putting miners, it's just to tear down some structural walls and put beams on. So it was already inspected and passed several inspections.
And who inspected it?
I don't remember the name, but I think you could find it on the record. Yeah.
It was a city inspector?
Yes.
And did they give you a signed inspection?
Yes.
And do you happen to, do you have that?
Yes, I didn't bring it, but we have.
You don't have it with you?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. That's all I have for right now.
Commissioner Velez-Ross?
Okay, so you said that when you bought it, the house already had an unpermitted sunroom?
Yes. You can still find those old pictures on the, if you search my address on the Google.
Yeah, I looked, I couldn't find it. But
I
did
have
your
those
realtor
pictures.
disclose that?
I believe it said on the contract, it's up to the owner to find out about the permit. So.
You were okay with that?
At that time, because I look at a lot of house nearby, they all have that thing, you know. It's kind of like a standard. I don't know why they built that back in the 70s, because, you know, it's right outside the master bedroom where you have the double sliding door and you can actually walk out. So they actually have a platform there, so a lot of neighbors actually enclosed it. You know, so I thought that wasn't that big thing.
So your realtor sold you a house with an unpermitted sunroom and recommended unlicensed contractor?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's all, thank you.
Commissioner Jimenez?
So I'm going to approach just two questions I want to know. At what time or when did you decide that this project was moving too far down the road, inconsistent with what your previous approvals told you could do?
Well, basically, you know, we get to the point where we already built the frame of the sunroom, and now we get to the point.
As we're seeing it right now?
Yeah, just the frame, like you can see the post, you know.
Okay.
And then it gets to the point we need to build a roof. Mm-hmm. We need to build a roof, and then, you know, I started, because my contractor back then said the roof is not their specialty, so they asked me to go find a, you know, special, you know, contractor specialized building roof. So I was going out looking for one, and then they start inquiring me about permit issues, and then I refer the question back to my existing previous contractor, and then, you know, I've been getting the running about, and that's why I realized, you know, there might be some issues, which is even without the city's letter, I decided to put a project on hold like early 2017. Well, it's also because I got pregnant at that time too, you know, and I actually hired Bowen, who is a designer, like back in September to start with the permit process, the legalized process.
Second question, talk to me about the design. How did you come to this design, which appears to be potentially inconsistent with the neighborhood?
It's really, you know, I think Christine was there, you know, at the site, so, you know, it's probably more easy to explain once you get to there, because we have fantastic views. You know, you can see entire, you know, the San Gabriel basically. And I believe when the first bunch of people who bought that house on that street actually paid premium for that view, and so. That design, you know, first of all, really is to maximize the view, because, you know, if we can extend out like 10, whatever, 12 feet, and if we just follow the existing roof line, then it's gonna get to all the way to the bottom, and that wouldn't work. And if we do a conventional gable or California style, you know, first of all, it won't be as maximize the view as this one is, and the second, which is the main reason, is actually if we can build a traditional roof line, it would actually require to tear down the old roof, you know, on the west-facing roof too, so it can connect. And with this design, I can pretty much preserve, without touching anything, the old roof. I just build a new roof, then connect with a drain, what's called a gutter box, right in between the old and new.
I mean, I can see a potential problem with drainage there in the future. Is this element something that you've seen reproduce elsewhere in your area? Like, is there a inspiration that I could go look at in someone else's home that has this similar design?
I think the one, those that looks that little similar is more like when they have like the roof that flat out, that coming out. But they probably with less slope, so the water can still, go down like that.
All right, that's it for me. Thank you.
A point of clarification, who owns the house? Do you own the house?
My name and my mother's name both on the title.
Say again, please.
Both my name and my mother's name.
You and your mother?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Redholz?
Yeah, I have these plans that we have that are part of, these are your plans for the house?
Yeah. Are you talking?
No, I'm talking to her. I'm sorry, I got a bad left eye. So just watch the sides back.
You're asking my designer?
You.
Oh, my.
Yeah, you. Because did an architect do this? These plans?
Yeah, it's a design drawing up with.
Okay, and I'm curious because there's a stop work order that was issued October 3rd, correct?
I believe
okay.
so.
These plans are dated October 30th. So what plans were you working on prior to October 3rd? Do we have those plans or?
I actually Bowen actually started working on those plans back in September, right? That's when I was on contract. Yeah, back in September. And then in October, we got the stop working orders. So, basically he's already started the drawing process, before, the...
Now, is this a licensed architect that drew these up or?
Yeah.
Because I don't see any stamp on here for an engineer or an architect that drew this. So I'm just...
I think they might need to have a handoff here so that they can.
Yeah, that's fine.
Please state your name, sir.
Yeah, I think my designer better answer that question.
So,
please state your name, sir.
My name is Bowen Yang.
And who are you, sir, in relation to the owner?
I'm the designer for the.
Oh, you're the architect?
Tracy, and for this address project.
You're the architect?
I'm actually the engineer. And I work with my partner, who is a civil engineer, and also another partner who is an architect. So we have our own company, construction company, and we are currently working on this project.
Are these your plans from your organization?
Yeah, that's our plan.
Okay.
And
we're licensed engineer and architect.
Are you licensed?
No,
or
I'm
the
not.
firm is licensed?
I'm the agent for our team.
Okay, because we look at a lot of plans here, and normally there is a engineer or architectural seal, a stamp, and this does not appear here. So.
And normally we would put a stamp on the plan during the building and safety process.
Okay, and
perhaps I could just respond to that just to make sure that. Yeah, when we get conceptual plans, a lot of times for these houses, they're not required to be done by a licensed architect. If it's a two-story, generally there needs to be a licensed engineer to make sure it's stable and it's designed correctly. But in my experience, yes, that's usually done at the building construction plan stage, not at the conceptual plan stage that we have here that the planning department and the planning commission look at.
We're looking at conceptual plans here. Okay. And I'm still kind of wondering about the date. I don't know if that concerns anybody else, but the stop work was 10/3 and this is dated 10/30. Are these the same plans you've been working on the whole time?
So I was hired by Tracy back in September 2017, and as she was explaining to me about her concept towards the design. And then I was just beginning to work on her concept. That was that was all I know.
And it's her concept or her design to do that sunroom roof? That's what she asked you to come up with?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, all right, thank you.
Anyone else? Can I have the applicant come back down, please? Sir, would you please fill out a card for us that's there and turn it into the staff?
The card.
Yes. Yeah, so we get your name and thing. Question
Yes.
for you. Have
Yes.
you done any work at all on that house after the cease and desist?
No,
No work has been done on
No,
that house
nothing.
at all? They stopped everything?
yes, well, we stopped actually quite before that, because, I was like this, when, we got the letter.
So the answer is no work has been done?
No,
Inside, outside, anything?
absolutely not.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, ma'am. Does anyone else want to speak in favor of the project? Okay, I've got a lot of cards here of people. And I think this person is against, I'm not sure. Mercedo Pinell?
Mercedes Pinell, she's against.
Pardon? Against. Yes, come up, please, if you want to speak.
That's an opinion card.
Okay, I know, but they don't. Robert Agee? Please state your name, sir.
My name is Robert Agee. I live at 2647 Elena, right next door to the property in question. I would like to thank the planning commissioners for this hearing and the opportunity to voice my objections to this project. I would also like to thank neighbors here in support, regardless of your position. Okay. My first and foremost objection is that the second-story sunroom proposed is not in keeping with the architecture of the existing building or the neighboring houses. Approval of this project would set a precedent and could ultimately result in the ruin of the neighborhood architectural cohesiveness, which would most likely have a negative effect on property values. The roof design, as proposed, could potentially create water issues affecting my property. The drawings as proposed do not accurately depict the existing structure as it was before changes were made by the current owner. The owner stated she wants the sunroom as proposed to give her the view she wants. If granted, she will be depriving us of our view. Why is her view more important than ours? The rearmost wall of the second-story sunroom and deck it sets on, as proposed, is only supported by 2 metal tube posts. Metal is affected by corrosion and could become structurally unsound, making the sunroom dangerous. If you include the 4'6" offset not depicted on the proposed drawings, the second-story sunroom would be 191 plus square feet. Why does a sunroom need to be so large? It's on the back of a master bedroom. Most of the neighbors have lived here for many years and for the most part have maintained their properties well and lived in harmony. I find it disturbing that someone purchased a house knowing what the properties look like and now wants to plant trees close together across the front of the lot, allowing trees and bushes to grow tall, and most disturbing, build a large second-story sunroom that is not in keeping with the neighborhood. Because of the inconsistencies of the drawings that she has proposed, it does not truly depict the front of the house as it is currently, nor does it depict the back of the house. She shows the back of the house going straight across from the other bedrooms. There is a 4'6" notch behind the master bedroom and master bath that is not shown on that drawing. And because of that, it is not a true picture of the amount of floor space that she wants to add on in this big sunroom. Thank you for hearing my objections and concerns.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you coming down here. I know you've had a little medical problem, so it's great that you came down. Okay, I just want to mention we've got a lot of people here, so we're going to hold the comments to 5 minutes. I should have said that in the beginning. So the next person looks like Maribel Kratz. Would you like to come up, please? Good evening. State your name, please.
Good evening. My name is Maribel Kratz, and I live on the other side of the property in question. Not in favor of for the approval of the renovations. The reason being, if you are in my backyard and you look at the renovations that started about 3 years now, it's just so massive. It doesn't look like it belongs to our neighborhood, and I have been in the neighborhood about 40 years. We would like to continue to keep our neighborhood as is. And if the sunroom especially, if it gets approved, let me know, because I will send in my petition to have my own sunroom put at the same time. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Carla Agee. As my husband pointed out, the drawings for this proposal do not accurately depict the house as it was. For example, the back of the house and the front of the house are not continuous straight lines, as shown on the drawings. There is a 4-foot offset. The drawing showing the added area does not show the existing front wall, so where does the proposed added area to the front room start? The back of the house has a 4'6" notch behind the master bedroom and bath. The drawing shows a straight line in line with the other upstairs bedrooms, making it appear that the proposed sunroom is smaller than it would be. If the drawings are not accurate, how do we know what the owners intend to build? My final statement is, I live next door. Work has never stopped. It has continued from the beginning. You might get a month or so off, but it has never stopped up until a week or so ago.
Thank you very much. Monica Trujillo.
Good evening, my name is Monica Trujillo. I live at 2648 Elena, across the street from this property in question. And can I just start by saying that those plans straight up lie. We've all gone to the backs, we've all seen the property in question. I am not in favor of having a mini McMansion in front of my house. I am not in favor of day workers polluting and destroying our street with their construction refuse, with their foul language at all hours of the morning, fighting back and forth. And the fact that she had the audacity to say she stopped working is a lie. I am fluent in Spanish. I have spoken to her day workers directly. They told me they were picked up at the Home Depot on Azusa and Amar. So that is really upsetting. So the continued work, the ugly yard, the fact that we're going to have a broken sidewalk in 3 to 5 years because of the trees she planted. The lie she told about Mrs. Anderson having a sunroom previous to her. This is all her illegal construction. It has nothing to do with our neighborhood, our style, or our cohesiveness. I've lived in this particular home since 1976. We are the original owners. We have never had an issue with anyone remodeling or updating the look of their home until now. And I would just like to say that I would like to see her construction torn down. I would like to see the house restored to its original glory, because she doesn't have the front fireplace anymore. There's plywood. Our neighborhood literally looks like downtown Tijuana because of the workers, because of the construction that's all over the place. And we're not used to living that way. Maybe she is, but we're not. I would like my neighborhood to be restored to the quiet, tranquil, peaceful place it was prior to 2016. And again, we need someone to come and actually look, take pictures, come by unannounced to see her workers, to see the arguments, to see the destruction and havoc she is wreaking upon this once happy neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else want to speak against the project? If not, would the applicant like to rebut? I don't know where she's at. Would you see if she'd like to come down and rebut? You have a chance to respond to their comments.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I have heard some of the concerns of my neighbors. I admitted to the fact that this project being dragged on for over 2 years now. And, part of the reasons me being pregnant for the entire 2017. And, as for some other accusations, first of all, my project has been stopped since April 2017. I have I have plenty evidence can prove that, and absolutely nothing being done, been working on ever since the cease and desist order being issued. Also, I have a picture that from my realtors when I bought a house that showing the house does have an existing sunroom, when I purchased it. So if, maybe some of my neighbors didn't see that, well, I can show them later in private. Other than that, as far as, it's blocking the views, I think my designer is better at answer that questions. So far as I'm concerned, I'm not blocking anyone's views because, the entire west facing was empty. Yes, that's pretty much what I have.
You said you haven't done any construction since April of 17?
No, since April 17, yes.
Why would you think these people said there is construction going on?
I don't know, maybe some of them were due to misunderstanding. For example, last week, I have a police from the West Covina cities. She said I need to put a fence on my pool. Well, the fence was previously taken down because I was planning to put a new glass fence on. So it's been taken down for a while. So the police said I have to put it back on. That's why I hired 2 workers to put on the temporary fence. And also because we had some windy week prior months. I have a workers to reinforce because we only have the posts lined up in the backyard. I have some workers to put what's called a reinforcement around that post so the wind doesn't affect the whatever create a hazard.
Okay, thank you. Miss Commissioner Reynolds.
Yeah, thank you. Did you submit plans to the city prior to December 15 of 2017?
Yes, back in 2016.
You submitted plans to the city?
Yes, but
okay.
It's for a downstairs remodel. Back then it was just the interior thing. That's why it doesn't require a subcommittee hearing. And also
it was an interior. They were changing the interior, which wouldn't be required to go to the planning department or be required.
Okay.
It wouldn't require review by the planning department. It wouldn't require.
Yeah,
right. But there would be a record somewhere in building.
It would have had to go to building, and it sounds like she's saying that it
also,
did.
if I can add to that, it's actually the idea of my contractor at the time, because my contractor saying that the subcommittee hearing could take quite a long time. So that's why he advised me to putting 2 separate permits while we to work on the interior first, because the interior ones get approval right away, so the buildings. So that's why, we have that problem, because I plan now to do all that right from the start, but the contractor wanted to put two separate permit phases, and then result me to, thinking they already get the second phase before they start working on it.
Okay, and you just made the statement that since April of 2017, no work has been done.
No.
Did you say that? That's a correct statement?
Yes.
So you have a contractor who, does he have workers that he is paying?
He has, sorry, what?
The contractor that you've hired a contractor is he bringing in workers to work?
Yes.
So you were saying that from April of 2017 till now,
No, absolutely
there
no
would be
workers.
no payroll records
No.
of anybody being paid working at your address. Is that your statement?
No.
There's no payroll records?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
Sir, can I speak again?
I'm sorry. Oh, you had your chance. I'm sorry. That's the rules.
Oh, I'm sorry, because she's lying again.
I know. That's fine.
Okay, as long as you know she's lying.
Okay. Close it to public testimony and open it to commission discussion. Who'd like to go first? Commissioner Castellanos.
I've felt since subcommittee that this design is not consistent with the neighborhood. If the neighborhood bought into this, maybe I would be more willing to go along with it, but with staff not feeling comfortable with this, and I don't feel comfortable with this, so many rules being broken. I mean, even if back to, we were talking about the drainage, the valley that would exist there, that just is not a good idea, even if I were going in that direction. I don't like this design, especially with so much resistance from the community. And for that reason, along with staff's recommendation, I will not be in support of this the way it is, but only the way staff has recommended. Thank you.
Commissioner Manis.
So here's, I think, where we sit, or at least where I sit. We have a situation here where there's a note saying that it's easier to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. That is, we're almost being placed in the situation to approve something because money has been invested already into this property, obviously absent of the approval of this department. So from where I'm sitting, I go back to the condition as part of the subcommittee review, which requires that we analyze second-story additions and are they preserving the views and views to neighboring properties. That is to say that there are no impact to those neighboring properties. Here, obviously, staff quickly registered a concern that the design may not necessarily fit in with the area. Nonetheless, we're here listening to this project based on this design. Now, I'm not too sympathetic, unfortunately, to the fact that money was invested into property absent of you or someone in the capacity of having to make decisions on your behalf, coming to this decision without any input from the city. So I don't think from this chair I can provide that level of sympathy. That's honestly a calculated risk, I think is the word I would use, that you took when you decided to construct the building as is. If you recall, my question to you was, where did you draw the inspiration for this design, as it's potentially inconsistent with surrounding properties? And so I still do not feel compelled that that has been properly answered. I'm also further compelled by this condition, which requires us to look at these second-story additions with the understanding that it will reduce or eliminate any need for windows on side elevations. I mean, the fenestration on this portion of the addition, I mean, there's a ton of windows. This is a potential Title 24 nightmare as well. I mean, the energy calcs on this are going to be through the roof. So nonetheless, I'm still in a position where I do not feel comfortable with even making a recommendation for approval as is. At least from this seat, that's where my opinion lays. And again, I understand your situation. I understand the complexities, but I think the key here was there was a calculated risk that you took on when you decided to make decisions absent of the approval process. And for that, I lack the sympathy. So I apologize for that. That's my decision.
Commissioner Heng? Commissioner Reynolds?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I concur with what my fellow commissioners have said. I am not comfortable at all with what's been presented to us. This is really the first time this commission is seeing these plans, okay? And as with any other opportunity to look at plans, we would not be approving it based on the first look, in spite of the fact that you've already gone ahead and took the risk and spent the money and had work done, okay? It also does concern me that you are not the least bit interested in working with us. I mean, staff has recommended that the roof pitch be changed on that part of the design, and there's no effort to even consider it. You're not in the driver's seat, in my view. And it concerns me that there's, and I agree, with Commissioner Jimenez's lack of sympathy. I hate to say that, but you make your bed, you lie in your bed, and it's. This is the first time we're seeing these plans, and it's just like anything else we review. We've got to make a decision right now. And, I have concerns that the work has, we've got neighbors saying the work has continued. They're there every day. That's their neighborhood. They see it. I don't believe they have a reason to make that up. I think there's some history of inconsistency with the plans, and I was out there today. I walked the neighborhood. I was able to take a look at the project from a couple of different angles, and if I lived there, I'd be upset. I got to tell you, I live in that zip code too. I'm not, I'm near Shadow Oak and Nogales. I'm not that far. That's my neighborhood too. I don't live on that street, but that's my area. And it concerns me that the condition is the way it is, and it's been that way for a long time. I mean, there's a reason that there's a process, there is codes, there's protocol, and you got to follow that, and you're very ambiguous as to the contractor. He has a license, he hasn't got a license, I don't know. He said do this, don't do that. As the homeowner, you've got to take responsibility, and as a commission, we have to take responsibility. And that's what I think you're hearing. We're taking responsibility right now. So I will not be approving this. I don't feel good about it. I don't know what what your options are, but what's in front of me tonight, I've got to do what I think is right, and I can't go forward with this.
Thank you.
I guess you probably heard everyone said quite a bit, and hopefully for the next round, try to work with your neighbors, ask them, work with a good architect, and hopefully get this thing wrapped up. Really, you do need to get entitlement first before you start building. And if anything right now, you have the planning department that you can work with, and also the building department that you can work with in terms of what it is that you need done prior to starting. So for the next round, you still need to get this thing going. However, it's best before you either come here or not come here, you need to make some decisions and really work with your neighbors, ask them what it is that, ask for the input, and then work with the architect to get this thing wrapped up so that it'll be finished up. Yeah.
Thank you. From my seat, I've been on the commission for 10 years, and I have never seen anything so blatant with discrepancies on any plan that ever came before us before. I think it all started, if it was me, and I'm not an attorney, started with your real estate agent. Some of the things you stated about your real estate agent had things in there about the sunroom and all that. I would certainly challenge that, especially if it's going to cost you money. Maybe you can recoup some of that. But again, I'm not an attorney. But there's so many discrepancies in this thing. I started work, I stopped work. The neighbors say that they're working there. I was out there Saturday and I reviewed the whole thing. I talked to some of the neighbors. I viewed it from the front and from the back. I agree the front with the trees is not a good thing, but I was thinking, well, once you got done with the project, maybe you'd redo the front. But the whole project is just fraught with discrepancies, just fraught with discrepancies. So I agree with my fellow commissioners. I cannot sit in this seat and agree to this. You need to work with staff, and I'm sure they'll be willing to work with you, but you're going to almost have to start from scratch. Those big girders sticking up there, I mean, those big steel girders, I'm sure they cost you a lot of money. But, you know, you can't just be throwing things up like that, because if everybody was able to do that in the city, it would look like hell. It would look like Tijuana or someplace where you just throw up a shack. I feel sorry for you that maybe people not necessarily lied to you, but didn't give you the honest truth, and you didn't do the investigation that you should have done. And so we'll work with you, but not on this project. And that's where I stand.
Perhaps maybe I could chime in a little bit here to try to move us forward. I would say this for everyone's benefit, you know, the hardest thing is when you've got construction started and you want to wrap it up. Well, obviously you can't be wrapped up till something is approved here and then it moves forward. So that's what everybody wants, I think. There may be a difference in what you want it to be wrapped up as, but everybody wants it wrapped up. So I think that's one thing. Hopefully we can all agree on that, all the people who spoke and all the people here at the commission. That's the goal. So I want to kind of go back to the beginning and talk about, there's four things going on here. There is a first floor addition on the front of the house of about 78 square feet. There is a open patio on the back. It's not really before you. They can construct an open patio, but the patio, so that's proposed. But on top of that patio is a second story balcony that's 230 square feet and a sunroom that's 140 square feet. What I've heard, I believe what I've heard is concern on the sunroom. I didn't hear too much, I didn't take in too much concern on the front elevation on the open patio cover, which actually is a ministerial, it's not before you tonight anyway, and the deck. So I think there should be discussion about that. If we're narrowed down to the issue is the sunroom and the design of the roof, then that's a question. The second question, if that's what it is what do you want to do? Do you want to continue this to allow to work with staff? Do you want to provide us direction on a shed roof or a gable roof? Some of you may know what I mean by that. There's two different types of roof form that you could say, hey, this is what I prefer. I think the lower profile will be the shed roof. The gable's still going to have a high point. It's going to have less profile than this, but it's going to have a high point. So those are points of discussion that we'd like to, you know, in some ways I think there might be someone thinking, well, the best thing is just to deny it. Well, if you deny it, then she can't do anything. She can't complete anything. And so that's not necessarily a good outcome, I don't think, for anyone. So that's why I wanted to kind of move forward with that.
Quick question for you, though. The front of the house, was that approved, that plan, on April of 16?
No, I don't believe so. I believe what she testified was approved.
I wasn't aware of that until you said that.
Oh yeah, well it was in the staff report. It's in the written part, but it's not been a point of discussion by the people in opposition or any of the commissioners either. But it's in the report. What I'm reading is from the report.
Another question, if I may. The whole back of the house is open, upstairs and downstairs. Isn't there some rule that they have to at least temporarily cover that instead of just leaving it open while they're doing construction?
Stop work is stop work.
So they can't even cover that, huh?
No, not until they have a permit to do something. If we give them approval to cover it with something, then there's got to be something structural given to them. I mean, I guess theoretically you put a tarp up, but
that's what I mean.
I mean, I think they could do that. We probably wouldn't protest them doing that.
We can't enforce them to put a tarp up. If they want to leave it open in the rain and everything, that's up to them?
Yeah, I believe that's the case. Stop work, it means what it sounds. It means don't do anything else. Don't put any other structural modifications because you might cause problems to what you've already started working on.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Reynolds.
Well, this is probably, you know, a discussion among us, but, you know, I mean, this applicant to this point has not been willing to address that issue. Now, if we go forward, is the applicant willing to address that issue and work with us? Otherwise, I don't know where to go.
Well, she's here.
I know.
So we can ask her.
That's kind of what I'm doing.
Would you like to come up and?
Did you hear the discussion, ma'am?
Yes, as far as I understand correct, most opposition with this project is I would call the butterfly roof with a sunroom. So I was hoping, obviously, when Christian mentioned that that roof might be an issue, obviously, like Jose said, because I already invest money in it. So obviously, I discussed with this with my designer also. My designer was asking, hey, do you prefer to make change now, or you want to try the committee, hearings? So hey, we already build it, so let's just hear what the community have to say. If we have to make changes, then obviously at that point we're going to make changes. Yeah. But meanwhile, I just like I said, we have a cease to work orders. If I want to see, because right now, like you said, the house is completely open. Obviously, I want to get the cover up as soon as possible. The sunroom doesn't really affect the interior house because it's already have exterior walls.
The question is, ma'am, are you willing to work with staff?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's
and if that's the case, then I suggest that you really get some strong professional guidance because I don't think you've had that in the past, and that's probably why you're in this position that you are right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there's people out there that are professionals that can help you with that so you don't make any more mistakes.
Yes.
Thank you. Anyone else? Questions?
Well, I just want to say that, direction from my seat is the shed roof, the flatter roof.
Commissioner Eng?
I'm okay with the flat roof.
Commissioner Jimenez?
So just one, and this is probably a question for staff. Procedurally, can we release the stop work order to allow them or to ensure that the house is weather tight, absent of the issue with the sunroom?
Well, first of all, I would suggest if you don't have any more questions for the applicant, to allow her to take a seat.
I don't have any more questions. If anybody on this commission does.
Oh, can I ask a question? I don't know the city rules, but is it possible we gave permit for the deck and the frontal part of the house will allow us time to make modification to the sunroom? Because the part of the house that's open, it's really it's not regarding the sunrooms. So at least we can put some window on.
I don't think I'd recommend that. I mean, I feel sorry for you. You've got a baby and everything there, but there's been too many discrepancies throughout the past to all of a sudden start to try to piecemeal the thing. Okay. And I think we need to really look at it from the start, from the get-go, rather than piecemeal it. Okay. That's my position.
I agree. I don't want to piecemeal it. I want the thing complete and up or down, but complete.
Anyone else?
Same here. And then just to my second point, I think at this point.
I would have the applicant sit down so we can have deliberations. Right. And I didn't answer your question yet, so you might want to rephrase that for me.
I know, and maybe I can just continue on that point. Is one, maybe can we lift, or can the city lift, I should say, the stop work order to allow them primarily to ensure that the house is weather tight so that it gives us time to work through these other issues. Again, because of the moving components that have led to the applicant being here this evening with us, I'm also a bit nervous on cutting this project to a certain degree loose without having a full understanding of what exactly it is that, one, we will be approving and what is expected from the applicant to ensure that they follow through with that. And then just second, Jeff, on my point, I'm not a big fan of the shed roof as well, of the sunroom, but also the percentage of windows being used as part of the sunroom. Again, I go back to the findings that we have to make as part of the administrative use permit, number 3, that talks about privacy impacts related to windows, etc. And I'm kind of jammed up there, primarily because of the high presence of windows on all three elevations. So, in my opinion,
side elevation.
I would say either that or, as staff suggested, having high windows so that they're more for true sun purposes versus for visual. And again, that's coming from this particular seat. And I can restate that, Christine, if you want me to do that as well.
I concur with what you're saying.
Well, I think what we need to do here is we need to craft a motion and with the direction so that we can start working with her to redesign. Because I think she's going to be in a hurry.
Do we have
to
a
do
motion in a second?
Again, there's a few moving components here because if I may hijack the conversation for a bit and if my fellow commissioners could just indulge me, the recommendation this evening is to approve with recommended conditions for redesign of the sunroom. But I think what potentially we're talking about is to maybe either one, allow for certain approval for the other administrative components of the property, just to make sure that the house is watertight, and then table the issue of the sunroom to a later date. Is that?
Well, I'm prepared to give direction on the sunroom. I'd like for them to tear that down and go back to the original pitch as recommended by staff.
Fair enough.
And I also like your recommendation about the windows, so I'm comfortable with throwing that in there now.
Okay.
And giving direction now.
Okay, just wanted to make sure, because I feel like there's a few moving components here, and just want to make sure we tie them all together.
Yes, that was staff's recommendation, but I'm hearing that the Planning Commission would rather continue it and see the plans brought back. So you always have that option to give direction to us to redesign and then approve.
Let's bring it back to us with.
Or secondarily to bring it back to you. And so that, it just depends on the circumstance what you want to do there. But you want to bring it back, right?
I want to bring it back with.
So your motion is for a shed roof, continue it to be brought back with a shed roof and side windows that are clerestory or high transom type windows.
Yes, and I also want to comment that I want to make sure that the design is consistent with what's there on all sides of the house. Please.
I'll second that.
Does that include the closing off of water or waterproofing or?
I don't think you need to put that in a motion because that is a question for the building department, whether they can do that. I don't, until you have a permit, not entitlement approval, but a permit in your hand with construction and techniques and how it's going to be done, they're not going to release the stop work. So I don't know if there could be a question of whether tightening it up, but it's going to be up to building on that.
All right, we've got a motion and a second.
Can I make one more? We have a motion and a second. Just one more quick. I mean, I'm very glad that Commissioner Costello's made that motion because I don't feel comfortable approving any facet of this. Okay.
That's kind of where I'm at too.
Not one facet of it. I want to see. I want to see what comes back. Okay.
Okay. So we've got a motion, Mr. Castellanos. Are you making a motion? Oh, you're seconding it. His motion. Okay. So,
Commissioner Hing?
Aye.
Commissioner Menez?
Yes.
Commissioner Redholz?
Aye.
Commissioner Castellanos?
Aye.
Chairman Holtz?
aye. This is 5-0. This action is final unless appealed to the City Council within 10 days. Thank you, everyone.
And it will be re-noticed again when it comes back to the planning commission.
We will notice everybody. If you want to get notice of this, we'll give. I guess they have their names.
Well, the 300-foot radius will be re-noticed again once it's resubmitted.
Thank you very much and good luck. Thanks, people, for coming out. Appreciate it. Let's take a second, let the people clear out. That guy that blue shirt, he had colon surgery, remember?
I know, man. That's a trooper there for you. It's like John Wayne, right?
Okay, that takes us to item number 4, administrative use permit number 18-04, subcommittee for design review number 18-04. Categorical exemption, applicant is Lyseth Andrade, location 2750 East Lark Hill Drive. The request is to demolish an existing 3,120 square foot single-story house and construct a new 7,158 square foot two-story single-family residence, including a 726 square foot three-car garage with balconies over 200 square feet in size. The house will include 5 bedrooms and 6.5 bathrooms. The applicant is also requesting the approval of a 6-foot retaining wall. The site is zoned R1 single-family residential and is located in Area District 3. May we have a staff report, please?
Our Associate Planner, Veronica Hernandez, will be presenting that report.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the Commission. As stated, the applicant is requesting an administrative use permit to demolish an existing 3,120 square foot single-story house and to construct a new 7,158 square foot two-story single-family residence, including a 726 square foot three-car garage. Applicant is also requesting approval of a 6-foot retaining wall and a balcony over 200 square feet in size. The surrounding neighborhood zoning and uses are detailed in your staff report as well as on the screen. The project is categorically exempt under the California Environmental Quality Act since the project consists of the construction of one single-family residence. Here we have the existing 3,120 square foot single-story residence. It was built in 1952 and it will be demolished as part of the proposal. Applicant is requesting to construct a new 7,158 square foot two-story residence, including a 389 square foot trellis patio to the rear of the house and a 726 square foot attached three-car garage, as well as the balcony over 200 square feet in size and a 6-foot retaining wall, which we'll discuss a little later. Here we have the floor plan for the first floor. It will feature a guest bedroom, 2.5 bathrooms, a game and media room, a great room, dining room, and kitchen. The second floor will feature 4 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms. Overall, the house will feature 5 bedrooms and 6.5 bathrooms total. Based on the number of bedrooms, a 3-car garage is required by the municipal code, and the applicant has provided a 726 square foot 3-car garage to the north side of the house. The proposed new single-family residence is in compliance with the current municipal code standards. All setbacks have been met, and the proposed house complies with the 25-foot height limit. Staff review of the neighborhood surrounding the properties found that the area consists of a mix of single and two-story single-family houses that were constructed between the years of 1954 and 2000. Staff conducted a survey of 19 homes surrounding the subject property. The streets are Citrus Street, Lark Hill Drive, Farview Lane, and Spring Meadow Drive. Again, single and two-story houses, mostly with attached garages. The chart included in your staff report as well as on the screen shows the mean and median lot size, square footage of the homes, number of bedrooms, and floor area ratio of the surveyed homes. The mean is the average of all 19 homes, and the median is the number that falls directly in the middle if listed in numerical order. The median size of the homes is 3,988 square feet. The mean size of the homes is 4,223 square feet. The house sizes range from 2,570 square feet to 6,690 square feet. The lot sizes of the surveyed homes range from 17,622 square feet to 72,869 square feet, while the lot size of the subject property is 69,869 square feet. It's on the bigger end. Floor area ratios range from 4% to 31%, and the proposed floor area ratio of the subject property is 10%. So as you can see, there's a lot of variation in this neighborhood. The house as proposed would be 1.7 times larger than the average size of the surrounding homes by 2,935 square feet. However, although the proposed house would be 1.7 times larger than the average size house, the house would only be 1.06 times larger than the largest house size of the surveyed homes. And that largest house existing is 6,693 square feet. The proposed floor area ratio is well within the norm for this neighborhood, and the applicant does not need any approval for a maximum unit size exception or large home, and the proposed unit size is allowed by right. The applicant is also proposing one 440-square-foot balcony off the master suite to the north front side of the property. That's going to be this area here. An AUP is required for balconies over 200 square feet in size. The applicant is also proposing 2 balconies on the northeast side of the property, which will be here, here. These balconies will be 75.74 square feet and 172.5 square feet in size respectively, and therefore do not require the approval of an administrative use permit. Although single-story residences are located behind and to the west of the proposed house will be located approximately 120 feet from the rear property line, approximately 300 feet from the rear neighbor's pool, approximately 80 feet from the south property line, or from the side property line, and approximately 100 feet from the westerly neighbor's house. Many of the surrounding properties also feature balconies to the side or rear of their house. The applicant is also requesting the approval of a 6-foot-high retaining wall to the southeast side of the property. It's going to be here. The wall will be about 31 feet 11 inches in length. An AUP is required for retaining walls over 4 feet in height. The proposed retaining wall will be located on the east side of the property. The east neighbor is located up a slope of between 10 and 20 feet, and the retaining wall will allow for a cut to allow the house to be constructed. The cut wall will not be visible from the easterly property. The proposed house will be designed in a contemporary style and will feature monoslope roofs, smooth stucco finish, wood trim, and stone, metal, and wood cladding. Large windows are proposed along all elevations. Proposed colors include light gray, dark gray, black, and another different dark gray. And we have renderings provided by the architect. The surrounding neighborhood is primarily single-story and features a mix of architectural styles, including bungalow and traditional. Many of the houses in the neighborhood feature a single-story ranch form. While the proposed house is unique in its architectural style to the neighborhood, there is no unifying architectural style, and it is well designed within its style. Here we have the southwest view of the property. Additionally, many of the houses in the neighborhood, including the proposed house, are located up steep driveways and surrounded by dense landscaping. Therefore, many of the houses are not visible from the street. The proposed house will not be visible from the street. The Subcommittee for Design Review Board reviewed the proposal on March 27, 2018. The review board had no issues with the design of the proposed house and recommended it be forwarded to the Planning Commission for review based on the unique architecture of the house in relation to the neighborhood, the size of the house relative to the neighborhood, and the possibility that a public hearing could be requested by one of the surrounding neighbors. The subcommittee guidelines have been met, and a discussion of the guidelines is included in your staff report. Staff notified the 24 properties within a 300-foot radius of the subject property about the proposed project. Staff received a phone call on April 16, 2018 from a resident at 2760 Lark Hill Drive. The resident was concerned about the visibility of the retaining wall. Staff explained the location of the retaining wall and that it would not be visible from the neighboring property. So that was this resident here, and if you'll recall, the proposed retaining wall is back here. Staff received a letter on April 19, 2018 regarding the project. The letter writer did not provide an address, but indicated they lived to the rear of the property facing South Citrus Street. The letter writer was concerned about the stability of the hillside and the possibility of the hillside and therefore the house collapsing onto their property. Based on the descriptions and the concerns in the letter writer likely lives at one of these properties back here. But again, they didn't provide their address or their name. As a condition of approval, the engineering department requires that the applicant submit a soils report and full detail and calculations by a licensed engineer of the retaining wall. So engineering will be looking at that hillside and making sure that everything is structurally sound on that property. Staff received a phone call on April 24th, 2018 from a resident at 2833 Farview Lane. That is this house right here. The resident had not received a public notice. Staff confirmed that a notice was mailed to that address on April 9th. The resident asked general questions about zoning and allowable development on the property. Staff received another phone call on April 24th, 2018 from a resident at 2740 East Larkhill, and that's this property to the west. The resident was concerned about the size of the proposed house as well as the balcony adjacent to their property. So here we have the summary of the proposal as well as what's existing, which will all be demolished, and what is proposed. Again, applicant is requesting an administrative use permit to demolish an existing 3,120 square foot single-story house and construct a new 7,158 square foot two-story single-family residence. That includes the 726 square foot three-car garage. The applicant is also requesting the approval of a 6-foot retaining wall and a balcony over 200 square feet in size. The house will include 5 bedrooms and 6.5 bathrooms. The surrounding neighborhood consists of a mix of 1- and 2-story homes. The proposed size of the home is 1.7 times larger than the average size of the surrounding homes and 1.06 times larger than the largest house size of the surrounding surveyed homes. The proposed floor area ratio is well within the norm for this neighborhood. Based on the setbacks, staff the project will be adequately spaced away from the surrounding properties in order to minimize privacy impacts. The required findings have been made and are included in your staff report. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving Administrative Use Permit number 1804 and Subcommittee for Design Review number 1804. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and the applicant is also here if you have any questions for them. Thank you.
Commissioner Riddle. Yeah.
Just for clarification, there are no variances as part of this application, correct?
Correct. They meet all development standards.
Right. And no one requested a public hearing, right? No residents?
We didn't give them the opportunity to. We proceeded straight to a public hearing based on the likelihood that we would receive a request for public hearing.
I see. But the people you talked to, either on the phone or via letter, they did not request one, or did they?
They didn't request one because they were responding to the notice that there was already going to be a public hearing.
I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I got it. Gotcha. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Anyone else? No? Thank you. Okay, we'll open it to public testimony. Would the applicant like to come forward? The applicant's not here.
Good evening, Dean Larkin Design, architect for the applicant.
Okay.
Who's right over there. I just want to say, first of all, everyone's been great to work with. I grew up in Whittier, and I have very, very fond memories of my dad driving me over to the Eastland Shopping Center when it had a lot of its Jetson-esque architecture, and that combined with the famous Neutra house that was built here in West Covina were the main inspirations for these projects. So it's deeply, deeply rooted in the history, albeit for me, history of West Covina, and it was really exciting, and I was kind of thrilled to work in my backyard. I work on the west side, so it was great to come over to this side of town and do the project. And I'm available to answer any questions or anything. I just want to introduce myself.
Do you have any questions of this man? Commissioner Jimenez?
Can you talk a little bit about the design? I know you started to touch on that, but the fenestration of this building, what led to the large or the amount of windows? What's pushing or driving the design? I think I would like to hear a little bit more about that.
So again, working on the west side, we specialize in hillside homes. We specialize in view homes. Mm-hmm. And I really want the architecture to get out of the way of the view as much as possible. Mm-hmm. This site has a 270-degree view. I've not really experienced too many sites like this on this side of town. I was just thrilled to see it. So really the sort of the way the project meanders across the site is really to maximize the exposure to the view of the Walnut Valley and out the great room. Where you see the slightly sloped roof there that is our Eastland inspired, is a view of downtown Los Angeles, the high rises. So it's a really pretty spectacular view.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, one
I'm
more.
sorry.
Who was the style you referenced? The the home you referenced?
The J.M. Roberts is the Neutra house that was done here in West Covina. It's where some more of the rectilinear forms come from on the house, and of course the more fanciful kind of with some of the vertical, what I call striping, that comes from the Eastland Shopping Center. So,
thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner.
I have
a question, though. You mentioned that there's a retaining wall that's about 30 feet tall. How wide is that area?
6 feet tall. It's about 30 feet long. It's notched into the
6 feet.
hillside.
Okay,
Yes.
6 feet tall
Yes.
and, okay, 32-ish
30, yeah.
long. Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I've got some cards here. What do I do with them? Dean Larkin. That was him, okay. April Alvarado?
She's here to answer any questions.
Oh, okay, thank you. And last but not least, Paul Blackburn.
Good evening, commissioners and staff. It's nice to be in front of you. I've known Raul and his brother for about 6 years now, and actually his proposed house is right above my house. So I know you have had, his brother has got a house that is, I think, close to being under construction that probably came to you folks within the last 3 months, and that was approved. Do you remember the address for? Anyway, it's another big house. I've looked at these plans. I attended the your subcommittee meeting 3 weeks ago. I've looked at the plans. I've been so impressed not only with the plans and the architect. I think it's a great asset as far as the neighborhood. I'd be thrilled to be able to live in that house. But again, I'm just absolutely blown away with the plans, and as the architect said, with a lot of the glass and kind of the west side look, just very, very impressed with it. So I would encourage you to approve that. Just a little bit of a side note, I don't know if enough people in the audience are old enough to remember, but this is the house that was in a book, 1959. There was a murder in this house, in the driveway, and I think it was called West Covina Murder or Murder in West Covina. I read it 20 years ago, whatever it was. I can't remember. I was still a kid. Be nice, but yeah, it was very interesting, and some of you may know Sam Cianchetti, Judge Cianchetti. I was talking to him the other day about this, and he caught me up on a lot of the old history of the property. But anyway, I just interesting. This is the property that was written up in West Covina. Not only is it going to be a beautiful home, but I think it's going to raise the tax base just a little bit. Maybe we'll generate a little bit of money. So anyway, want to thank staff and thank you, gentlemen. So I would certainly hope you'd vote for it. Thanks.
Anyone else want to speak in favor?
I just have a...
Come on up. I'll ask you to fill out a card when you get done, please.
I meant to, but I read this and I had a question. I'm not for or against it. My name is Harry Borak. I'm one of the houses around this house. I just have a point of clarification. I guess this would be the second page. The pages aren't numbered. But on the second page at the bottom, they talk about balconies. One large balcony to the north and two smaller ones to the northeast. On the next page at the bottom, they refer to balconies, all of which are on these, I think they say the south and southwest side. This is at the bottom of page what I would call page 3.
Yeah, numbers are at the top left.
Oh, thank you. It's page 5. So the first one was on page 3 at the bottom, under balcony and retaining wall. And the other one is at the bottom of page 5. One talks about balconies on the north and northeast side, and the other one talks about balconies on the south and on the west side, south and west side. Well, I'm wondering which side are the balconies going to be on?
Could staff help us out with that?
I think it would have effect on friends of ours that have a house right next to it. You see what I'm talking about on page 3 and 5?
Sir, isn't that house next door, isn't that down below them a little bit?
Are you down below? It's her home, the dark-haired gal.
Where is it on page 5, Harry?
Page 5 at the bottom. And it's the very last sentence. It says the west and south sides for the balconies. On the page before that, it talks about the north and northeast, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
And I really can't tell exactly how that's laid out there. That's my problem.
Okay, so if you look at the second floor plan, thanks for your patience. North is that way.
Okay.
So the balcony is going to be, this one's going to be like on the northwest side, and this is on the northeast side.
So page 3 is the correct location then?
Yes, and sorry for the discrepancy.
Okay. That's really all I had.
Thank you, sir.
Good catch, Harry.
Anyone else want to speak in favor of the project? Anybody want to speak against the project? I'll close it to public testimony. Who? You want to speak against the project? Oh, I'm sorry. Come up, please. Before you leave.
I will.
State your name, please.
My name is Sherry Nine. I live up above the house on Farview Lane. And my concern with the house is the vast size of it. It is huge. So from my understanding is when they allowed all of the homes to be built on that hill there, they were all to be kind of understated, blend in with the hill. They're all tiered. So even though the size of the property is 69,000 square feet, it's on tiered levels, so it's not all flat. So the house to scale of that property is just going to be huge. It kind of reminds me of how when they put IKEA in and you first look, you've got this giant thing out there, and this is how this is going to look to all of the properties that are surrounding. I'm concerned about the visual impact, the character of the neighborhood and how these were all initially started. It does not match the character of the neighborhood. The design is very, just very large. I think it's overbearing, out of scale, out of character for what we've always had there. I think the loss of existing views for the neighboring properties, especially the ones from the back. There's actually behind this property, there's one driveway that there's 3 houses that go on, and this might even be part of that. Maybe the architect can clarify that. But there's a house to the back and one also to the back of that, and this is all just going to be right in front. So I'm really concerned. I just think it's just way too big. It's twice the size of any other home in the area. So it's just going to be a very big eyesore.
Well, I was up there. It is on the top of the hill. It's not blocking anybody's view or anything, right?
Well, did you see the house right behind it? Because you get a much different perspective from Farview than you do down on the street, because you can't tell because there's so many different levels. But it's going to be huge. Everybody blends into the hill. All of the homes were created and built that way. They're not overstated. This is going to be quite an enormous house for the neighborhood, twice the size of any other house that we have over there. It's big.
Okay.
So. That's my concern. Overdevelopment. I just think it's overdevelopment, loss of privacy for all of the other homes. And especially the people back behind. I think it's going to be a problem for them, and I don't think that they read English, and I didn't have time to go talk to them. But I think that it's going to be, especially for them, they might lose value on their home. I think there will be some blockage for them.
Are those
for sure.
people here?
No.
They're not, okay. Were they were notified, I'm sure, the neighbors.
I don't think that I don't think that they can read English. And I didn't have, I do not think so. I've talked to them before, and unfortunately, I didn't have time to go over there and talk to them. I didn't get the notice until today, so.
Thank you. You have any questions? Thank you, ma'am.
I actually have one.
Commissioner Hang, you have a question?
Yes, I do have a question. So you're saying the 3 houses in the back, is it the same level or are they higher elevations?
They're different elevations, but the one directly behind this property happens to be one that's closer to this. A lot of the homes are spread out a little bit more and they're a little further. This one is probably the closest on all of our area that's right back behind it than any of the other homes. This is a gentleman who does not speak English, I'm certain. I'm sure he probably didn't read the letter, didn't understand it. So.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is another opposition? Are you speaking in opposition, ma'am?
I don't know.
Ma'am, are you speaking?
Yes.
Would you please state your name?
My name is Gay Miller, and I am 2740. I'm the house below this house, this proposed home. And my concern is that the retaining wall, the reason why we love this neighborhood is you're not on top of each other. You're not looking into somebody's bathroom. Or you say hi to your neighbors, but you can be in your bathrobe and you're still cool. This house is going to be right up against our house, right on top of our house. That's my concern. It is a huge house. It is different than all the rest of the houses, but my concern is they're going to be right on top of me. The one that is there now is pushed back, so we still have our space.
Is your house, as you leave their driveway and go down right on the left?
Ours is right next to their driveway.
On the left, if you go down the driveway?
You're up, you go right, and then you go up, and then they're straight. I don't know.
Well, their house is higher than yours.
No, their house is higher than ours,
Right.
yes.
Okay. I'm trying to picture where your house is compared to the other one.
We have a map on the screen. 2740 Lark Hill?
Correct.
That's this house.
Yeah.
Anyway, that is my concern. I think it's...
Thank you.
And plus, I don't want the balconies to be breathing down, like I said, on to my property. So.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else want to oppose? I guess the architect, wherever he was, Dean Lark, is he still here? Oh, you're hiding back there. You want to rebut anything there?
If you put the site plan back up, I can address a couple of the concerns. So the way that the house is oriented, we are facing the we are facing the Walnut Valley. Oh, great. Will it reach there? This way? How do I can design a house, I can't use a pointer. The Walnut Valley is this way. The house that they're talking about above, who I understand the occupants are only there part-time, it is above it, but it also faces the Walnut Valley. So it doesn't look out over us this way. Of course, it does what it needs to do. It looks at the view. So it doesn't. This house doesn't really get in its way, and it is above it. And then this nice lady's house is right here. We did look at that house. I did have concerns about it, and I can say that the balcony here, yeah, we do have a balcony here, but she has no windows at all facing our side of the property at all, and her yard is on the other side. So I don't really see, especially with the house set back like this, where we're going to be intruding on her privacy at all. So I just wanted to address those two things that were brought up. Did you have any? I don't want to. Did you have any questions or things you wanted me to address?
I actually have one question toward the one that is toward the back on this side.
This one here?
Yes. Is it the same elevation as the house?
As this one, no, it's above. That's why there's a little retaining wall here and a hillside up. The ones fed by this road here are all elevated above ours.
How high?
It's probably, I don't have the exact topology, but it must be 15 to 20 feet above us. So it almost clears our roof line. And it's a two-story house. Well, again, just to be clarified, that house is, if you could draw this house, you'd see that it's angled, the view is here, and it's angled out toward the view. It's not facing the bulk of the house this way. So we're not impeding on their view.
But is that...
Ma'am, I'm sorry. You have to address the commission. You can't be back and forth.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Does that particular lot also has a 280 view or 380 or 360 view?
I have never been in the house. I can't speak to the view.
Okay, but the height and elevation, you mentioned that the view is going toward that side. Any
Correct.
particular reason why you're not thinking that it might have view on this side?
Well, even if it does out to the Walnut Valley, look at the way the house is shaped. It's going to come clear out that way past the house.
So currently without the house, currently with the existing house, they do have the, you could say 360 view.
I don't know what angle that lot has. I can't speak to that lot.
So, but in other words, is that if you're up there, there's no hill blocking that side, this particular side of where the house is going to be right now?
This house sits, maybe the aerial, I don't know if the aerial shows the house and shows the way that the angle, can you see it? We're talking about this one right here, correct? You can see its angle, it looks out that way, past the house.
That's the one that has higher elevation?
Correct. Correct.
So okay.
So the short side of the house faces ours, the long view side of the house is unblocked by the view, by the mass of this house. If that makes any sense. I don't mean to speak like an architect.
I have, but just a little, just want to turn it.
If you'd like to come back up, you can come up. No, you got to speak in the microphone so we can hear.
The house that's right behind that house does have a complete view. I've been in it many times. The Nichols used to own the house, and it does. So it's definitely going to be a problem. It's going to be a big problem for them. And I think the way
when you say, ma'am, when you say it's a problem, what do you mean it's a problem?
Well, because now it's going to be in their way. It's going to be in their view. There's just no way it can't be.
Oh, and you understand the code. There's no code that says, you can't build a house because it might block somebody's view.
Well, they're taking full advantage of the view. So is it really okay to build in front of someone else when they paid quite a lot for the home as well? So it's going to damage their property value.
Well, these people have the right to build a home there too. So, anyway. Anything else?
I still think it's just completely out of sorts and size with all of the other, it's just like the lady who was up before. We're trying to conform. Everybody else is trying to conform with the neighborhood, keep things to where everything looks good. It's not hillside. They've got those ginormous, those houses aren't even as large as this one. I mean, this is down off Lark Hill. This thing is going to be almost as big as our country club. So anyway.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Larkin. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't know if I heard correctly because he said that they're not even here all the time. So I don't know if this is this a vacation home or something?
I was referring to the neighbors above.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Thank you.
Perhaps I can discuss a little bit on the, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I wanted to ask a question. Do you have the surrounding houses, the square footage, like we usually get in the thing? Or?
Yes.
We did the the neighborhood survey. I can pull up the full chart if you'd like. It's not in there. We don't include it as an attachment, but I gave you the median and everything. Again, as stated, the house will be 1.7 times larger than the average and only 1.06 times larger than the biggest house.
Thank you.
Okay, and maybe let me speak a little bit on the topography, because you have enough here to get some information. In this vicinity, this wall is mapped as a top of wall at 695. The finished grade, now I don't know the architect, the finished grade seems like it's at 675.
Finished grade of the property we're talking about.
The finished grade of the house, 675. The house can only be 25 feet tall. So you're talking about this house being maybe 3 feet higher than the ground here at the edge of the property. So I don't think you're going to have much disturbance of view. There could be some, but I don't think it's going to be much, because you're basically looking down at the top of the house. So that's on that. So now maybe you can go to the chart. We don't usually provide you the whole list of houses that but we provide you.
Oh, there's the one, okay.
We provide you a summary.
Right, right. Yeah, because there is some very large houses there, but the way they're stuck in the side of the hill, it's not like a normal, regular flat neighborhood.
The largest house in the survey, I think, was 6,900 square feet.
About that, yeah.
About 69, and this house is 71.5. Yeah. So the largest house in the survey is only about 250 square feet smaller than this house.
Okay. Any questions, staff?
So Jeff, according to what I'm trying to understand is that if that particular house right now, they had a complete view, but if this house is built, they might see the top of the roof when they're standing on the first floor, possibly 3 to 5 feet tall, you're saying? So
from what I can see, that would be the case, yes. Now, we don't have a view ordinance. We don't provide any of that information. We provide the notification. There's not a requirement you get approval from anyone. It's just notification.
I do understand, but I'm just saying that if someone is sitting there in their living room currently looking at the view versus with the house built now, you may not be able to do that sitting down. You probably be on your tippy toe to see what your existing.
I don't know the answer to that question. Yeah, it could be, but I don't know where the I don't know where the view is to. So I can't answer that question.
Any other questions of staff this time? Okay, if not, I'll close the public testimony, open the commission discussion. Who'd like to start? Commissioner Castellanos.
Yeah, well, as we mentioned a few times, in West Covina, we don't have a view ordinance, so we can't use that as a basis for deciding. We can just on personal opinion, but that doesn't protect landowners. In fact, any home bought up there should come with that disclosure, especially when someone has a view. It should be perfectly clear from a realtor standpoint that if someone builds in front of your view, you don't have recourse. So that addresses that issue. And now, as far as it being overbearing with a 10% footprint and only being 1.06% bigger than the biggest in the surveyed area, and also the home being allowed by right, I don't see anything that prevents me from voting in favor of this. I heard that some of the neighbors might lose value if this goes forward. It's actually the opposite. As Paul Blackburn mentioned, a step up in basis is only going to increase revenues to the city and increase comps for future sales. For all those reasons, I'm in favor.
Anyone else? Commissioner Beddoes?
Well, I concur with Commissioner Castellanos. I would just, if no one else had any comments, I would ask staff for the resolution numbers.
Commissioner Jimenez?
Oh, go ahead, go ahead. I would like to say something. I mean, I can understand, and I do love, that the house is beautifully designed. It is massive, yes. However, when you're looking into the community and approving, a project, we also need to look at the whole neighborhood as a whole as well, because that's what makes our community as well. And I guess as one of the neighbor had mentioned, perhaps, I mean, maybe the lack of language understanding, maybe we should have a dual language when we're sending out these notices so that they would know what's going on. This is for future thing. But regarding this particular project, I love the fact that it is, nicely designed, but I am very uncomfortable sitting up here not knowing all the details and the surroundings and how it's being affected. That is very concerning to me, especially I know that area. I do live close by there. The hills some area is just all over the place. And when we go and visit one location, we just look at one location, not realizing all the surrounding area and how it's being affected as well. So I just wanted to say that, when I make the decision, this is a community as a whole, we need to,
Thank you. Commissioner Jimenez?
I'll just try to keep my comments very brief as possible. And I used to work in a community that was big on historic preservation, and I always remember talking to the preservation planners there and their thought about design for projects. Should buildings be compatible with their surrounding uses? And I had one of the most interesting discussions with one of the planners, and he said something along the lines that we want to look at design so that yes, they can be preserved at a future date. In other words, we want to start to push the envelope, push design a bit so that we can have showcase pieces in the near future that are worth preserving, which I thought was a bit shocking coming from a historic city. Here what we have is a design, a layout that's very custom. In other words, it's not cookie cutter. It's not something you see with large-scale development or monopoly homes, as I sometimes call them. There's a heavy investment in design, features, elements. I mean, I don't think I could ever afford to live in something like this, but I think there's an opportunity to have a showcase piece that's potentially worthy of preservation in the future, maybe a little bit past my time, right? But the idea is that there's a heavy investment into the property to have a thoughtful design that obviously takes advantage of some of the view issues. It was discussed. We don't have a view protection ordinance. That's definitely something I would probably ask for if in the future this is a big issue. But more importantly, coming out of this, I can give a recommendation for approval. But I would ask the applicant, if at all possible, if in the future when this building is built, I would like to tour it to see what the impact is. Financially, to me, it's pretty obvious, but I would like to see how this looks when built, to understand exactly how it came to life, and maybe to study some of those view issues if they exist. Otherwise, we probably end up with a showcase piece that's worth future preservation. And that's my thought. Thank you.
I agree with all my commissioners. I was up there, and I will say, when I view a property, I look around at the surrounding area. I just don't look at the piece of property. It really is a fantastic lot being up on top where it is, as far as the view is concerned, and I think it's a beautiful structure myself. And rest assured, they wouldn't let and approve the plans for a house to be there if the hillside wasn't strong enough to hold that piece of property. It would never be approved. So there's no fear that the ground's going to wash away. I can't speak for earthquakes and things, but right now, the way it's built, it's structurally sound, the hill. But I think it's a beautiful piece of property, and as Commissioner Jimenez said, we can't always build the things cookie cutter. We need to look towards the future for something that's beautiful, and maybe some other people would like to build something like that. And I think this particular area up there by South Hills is very unique, the way the homes are all staggered in the side of the hill and up on top and down below. Some of them you drive down into the home, some of them you drive up into the home, and I just don't have a problem with it. So from my seat, I'm in favor of the project. Anyone else?
I'd like to have the resolution numbers to make a motion to approve.
The resolution number, to remind, it's an administrative use permit, and so the resolution number would be 18-5945.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Castellano, second by Commissioner Redholz. May I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Hing?
Did you answer?
It's, I love the beautiful home.
It's a yes or a no.
It's a yes or a no?
It's a yes or a no.
Commissioner,
so you're in favor of the project? Are you in favor of the project?
Yes.
She
Yeah,
voted
okay.
aye. Yeah.
I wasn't
Commissioner
sure.
Menace?
Yes.
Commissioner Redholz?
Aye.
Commissioner Castellano?
Aye.
Chairman Holtz?
Aye. Passes 5-0. This action is final unless appealed to the City Council within 10 days. Thank you very much for your input, people. Okay, I guess we're going back to 2, huh? Is this the... Okay, brings us to item number 2. This is administration use permit number 1730, planning director's modification number 1740. Do we want to...
Might ask him to go into the community room.
Give him a second. Give him a second. Could you please have your, so we can go on with the meeting, meet out in the community room, please?
I think you better bang your gavel. They're not.
Harry, Harry, can you go up top and talk, please? Thank you. Deal with you Friday.
Bad boy, bad boy. Jeff, do we need to go through the whole thing again or pick up where we left off?
It's just him.
I think we can pick up where we left off.
We had nobody, we just made the report, nobody was against it or anything.
No, and I think the hearing is still open, so the report was provided.
Commissioner Hang had a question for the applicant.
Oh, yeah, the commission, that's why I said the hearing's still open, so I would ask the applicant to come up and speak. That would how
Okay.
it started.
Would you please come up, sir, state your name and fill out a card if you get a chance. Well, after, you can do it after.
My name is Tim Bias. I represent the applicant. I apologize for the trouble I had. I made it just in time, I guess. I spoke with staff a couple of days ago, actually, regarding this project. I took it over kind of midstream as far as the planning side is concerned, but I've been working on it from the beginning with the design and the landlords. The one concern that I had with the proposed, with the staff report rather, is with regard to the equipment area there. I guess there was some back and forth, and someone advised to put a kind of Spanish-style roof on the top. I know that there's a little bit of a clearance between the roof and what is now the trash enclosure. I'm not sure if that'll be sufficient for ventilation or not, given the equipment that's in there. Maybe it would have to be during the building stage or something. We'll have to see if we can open up the cover in some way, if that could be a modified condition maybe, I don't know. But we want to make sure that there's no potential overheating that could happen. We try to contain all the equipment within that existing approximately, I think, 10 by 10 equipment enclosure. And in order to do that, it's pretty tight. And there shouldn't be any issue, but normally we'd like to have it open if possible. Like the existing, as you can see on the right there, the existing trash enclosures have kind of a chain link cover. And so that's what I think would be preferable, to just have it matching the other ones. But I know that staff initially recommended that we put that Spanish tile. And so that was my only kind of, I guess, concern.
Jeff, you want to come back on that?
I have a comeback.
You didn't listen. Gotcha. Gotcha.
Well, the plans show it, so it wasn't just staff, the applicant, and there's been some switchover.
Right.
So this gentleman's not the one who put it on the plans, but it's on the plan, so that we haven't had much discussion because it was already on the plans.
Okay.
I think it could be raised up higher, and he wasn't privy to your discussion. There was actually a question earlier with you could put the cover on all the trash enclosures. So, and I'm not recommending that. What I'm getting at is that the city is interested in getting covers on trash enclosures for several reasons. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the reasons that this, I think, came up to begin with. I think that ventilation, if you raise it up higher, that's one way to address the ventilation because it allows you more space on the side. There could be a possibility of putting some kind of ventilation ducting on the top of that roof too, if that was necessary. That would be our recommendation. It was shown on the plans. We thought it was a good idea. We still think it's a good idea.
So your concern is about the ventilation. How much would you recommend raising the?
You know, I don't know. We would have to talk with our construction manager that has a better idea of the exact, because all the equipment is slightly different. And in some cases, what you can do is you can actually put in kind of AC units, which we do for indoor equipments. For an outdoor equipment, we normally don't do that, and we also don't want to alter their existing property to the greatest extent possible. We're trying to leave it as it is, because we're already kind of doing a lot of stuff on the roof. So we're trying to minimize these, at least invasive as possible, on their trash enclosure.
Can we recommend that you can work that out with whoever?
If that's your desire, you can leave that up. I'm not sure, you need to be careful what direction you give. Just to be clear, he's asking not to do it. So if you leave that open, then it won't be done at all. So the question is to you, what you prefer. If you don't mind it not being there, and it is kind of in the back, then the Planning Commission can approve that.
Thank you. I'm just done chopping at the bit. Didn't Christine say that the city wants these trash enclosures to be covered? I mean, that's I believe is what our code states now. Any new development would have a covered trash enclosure. And granted, this is no longer a trash enclosure, but I mean, I think for consistency in the way the thing looks back there, I would like to see something where it's enclosed. So there is some continuity back there.
Well, does the code say that, or is it that's what they like?
It's part of MPDES.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's the stormwater runoff where you cover it so that water doesn't seep out. When it rains, it doesn't wash all that stuff into the storm drain and straight into the ocean.
All right.
And Mr. Chairman, before you got here, I asked if there was an opportunity for co-location at that.
You mean for the site generally?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we always look at co-location first, especially in a case like this where it's such an extensive build-out. This is the more extensive FRP designs that we've had. So yes, we always look at co-location. It's several $100,000 cheaper, so you rest assured. The primary purpose of this site, though, is not necessarily to expand coverage. It's a lot of it having to do with capacity, which means as people use their phones for more and more things, they use more data on their phone, and so it's basically trying to make sure the existing coverage that we have can cover people using their phones more often. So for 5G eventually, maybe, but in the meantime, just using your phone more for streaming or video or maybe GPS or whatever high data usage is. So in this case, going on an existing site wouldn't have provided the additional capacity, which is really the primary purpose of this facility.
Knowing how many antennas you're going to put inside this clock tower, how much more room would there be in there for co-location? Well, let me put it another way. What is the percentage of occupancy of that tower of what you're going to put in?
Well, ultimately, it comes down to the needs of whatever this other, hypothetical carrier would be. The way that we're designing it, we only have enough FRP material for our own coverage. But what generally happens in cases like this is if another carrier were to come along, they would say, we want to, sublease this from you or lease it partially from you and partially from the landlord, and then they'd remove a portion of the new kind of cupola that we're building and replace it with FRP. So they'd be able to co-locate, but it would be basically under us. And because it's already not the tallest site, I'd say it's possible for another carrier to come around, but it'd have to be someone that's looking for a lower rad center. So I'm not sure how likely it is, just because it's already not the tallest structure. Generally we look for 45, 50 feet, and I know a lot of other carriers look for the same. And they go lower if necessary, but that's not what they are generally looking for. I mean, is there room for another carrier? I mean, yes. I don't know. It depends on what antennas they have. It depends on what height they're looking for. It's a technical question that I can't answer for the other carriers. But it is certainly plausible that another carrier would come and say, look, it's not ideal, but it's easier than having to build a whole new site, so we'd like to co-locate below you.
That's what I was kind of looking for. If you're taking 25 or 35 or 50% of the inside of the structure, that would tell me a little bit how much is left. So, and you don't know that figure.
Well, I mean, I can tell you, as far as the whole structure, it's a huge structure. We're taking up certainly less than 20, 30% of the entire structure. But
less than?
But what?
Less than?
Less than, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's very tall, but it would have to not only be enough room, but enough room in the right location.
Right, okay. That answers my question. Thank you.
But actually, I have a question. Basically, you mentioned that earlier regarding the co-location, they have to go below it. But isn't it federal law allows it to increase automatically by 20%? Let's say that even if you approve today with 45-foot tall, tower the maximum, but if someone want to come co-location-wise, they don't really have to come into the city and ask for permission due to the federal law that's allowed the telecommunications to be able to stack on top of it an additional 20 feet. So in a way, tonight, if we're approving, like let's say, for example, you don't need it tonight.
Right.
You only need it 45 feet, but tomorrow comes, you're saying that, well, I need 45 feet because another company just came and want to co-locate. And you can stack another 20 feet without having to come back to our city to ask for permissions or to redesigns or what have you. I mean, isn't that like the middle class Tax Relief and Job Creations Act? Because that's ultimately basically is your rights once we give you the base. And just right around, you can turn around and say, you know what, we can co-locate tomorrow. I understand that tonight you don't need it.
Right.
Which is true. But tomorrow comes, we're thinking that all of us might be here thinking that, well, you know what, we're just only approving a 45-foot. But then you can turn around and say, well, because of the federal law, you can actually stack another 20 feet on top. So we're no longer approving a 45-foot tall structure. We're approving a 65-foot tall. Potentially. I'm not saying that you need it today or tonight. I'm just saying that at that point in time, tomorrow comes, not any of the planning commission nor the council can basically dictate or do anything about it because of the federal laws. Give you guys the rights to do that. Is that a possibility?
So I think that's partially correct.
Okay.
It's my understanding, and staff probably knows this pretty well too, is I think the rule is 10 feet or 20%, whatever is greater. I think that's the rule. And so in that case... Well,
the Middle Class Act stated that it's 20 feet, and the document, 20 feet on top of what it's currently being approved. Now, let's say tonight you're asking for the top height that's 45 feet.
I don't think...
So 20 foot above that is...
I think I would just try to answer the response.
Okay, well, I'm not sure if that's exactly right, but if it's 10 feet or 20 feet or whatever, yes, you are technically correct that they would be entitled to a modification without having to get an additional entitlement. However, you still have to get planning approval, and one of the conditions on that
but it's federal law. Federal law present.
No, I mean I understand. I've done 100 of these since that law has come out. Well, we still have to get planning approval. Yes, they do not have the same discretion as with a brand new site or if that wasn't in effect, but they still have to make sure that one of the conditions is that it conforms with the existing stealth design, right? And so in this case, we'd have to make sure that whatever design that we chose, theoretically, whatever, 10 years down the line or whoever came along, they would have to make sure that this new design, A, would have to be within 10 feet or 20%, or whatever the height limit is, right? And B, it also has to substantially conform, is the language they use, substantially conform.
But if
without the
it's
existing.
substantially conform, if they're not coming in front of us again, then how do we get a chance to make a decision?
No, you're
that
right,
point in
you're right.
time.
You don't. It's the planning department that has to sign off. And without the planning department's approval, we can't proceed and get a building permit. So we've had several sites. I think I worked on one when it first came out, actually, in this city, that came along with that. And we weren't increasing the height at all. We were orienting the antennas. So it wasn't exactly the same. But you still have to get planning approval. You can't just say, well, we're just going to build it, not to get any permits or anything, right? We still have to get building permits, and we can't get a building permit unless the planning department signs off. So to say that we don't need any sort of planning approval, we don't need to go back to commission. That's true, but we still need to get a administrative review. And that's true, you know, anytime we do any sort of wireless stuff, we have some administrative review.
But let me ask you this, if Jeff, which is administrative use permit, do not want to have this increase, does he have that option? He will not have that option.
I mean, he can say we're not going to approve it.
Right. But then federal law kicks in and say, you know what, that's our rights to do that.
Well, I think that what I would suggest is that there may be a time when we can have a study session on federal law, but I would warn against picking and choosing what federal laws you want to. There are other federal laws that are in play here.
I'm just asking regarding co-location, because he mentioned that co-location, he has to go below it. However, in this case, you can have co-location, and you can have the option of co-locations by going up 20 feet, because the federal law regarding the act actually allow the companies
and I think you made that point.
To enable to do that.
My only point is there are other federal laws that you need to consider as well, not just one federal law.
Well, that is true. That's true. So I'm just saying that to answer our planning commissioner's question, it's just that, yes, they do and they can't co-locate in the future if they wanted to, because that is their option. And at that point in time, when this tower extends upward, they will not have to come to us, and we as a city do not have or cannot make that decision.
So to be clear, this one didn't have to come to you. We brought this to you. This is an administrative use permit because of what it is. So that's what I'm saying. You have to be careful about picking and choosing what you're going to hang your hat on. But I think I've responded to that, and I think the applicant has as well.
Commissioner Jimenez.
You know, to Commissioner Hing's point, there is a lot in ever-changing rules and regulations with wireless telecom. I'm afraid, though, that the action before us this evening it's specific to a particular request, and I'm a bit nervous mucking up the discussion with policy, both state, federal, et cetera. Obviously, there's some permitting process that has to go into extending a structure, let alone just compliance with the building code that at minimum requires. But so just to answer at least just my couple questions. One, is the design of the enclosure, is that how it came to staff? Is that what I recall hearing? The design that's...
No, that's not the original design. The original was to maintain the chain link fencing cover, and then we recommended the solid roof cover just because that's part of our code now.
Right, okay. And the CMU on the perimeter?
The CMU on the perimeter is existing. So the enclosure in itself is already existing. It's only the roof that's changing.
So then we're hearing from the applicant that there is a potential for ventilation primarily because of the roofing structure.
Yeah, so that was the primary concern. And I don't know exactly, because I don't know how hot it's going to get. We haven't had a study done. That's something that we usually would do after planning approval. We do that in the building stage, and that's why I said maybe it would have to be it could be some sort of a modified condition of approval or something, but we want to make sure, obviously, we're not, if it turns out that it's going to overheat, we can't do it, right? We're not going to put the safety of the site or potential fire risk in there, right?
I believe the structure, correct me if I'm wrong, the FCC would have to regulate the equipment cabinets to operate at a certain, well, one, for RF frequencies, but for these cabinets, they would have to operate at a certain temperature and would have to be maintained at a certain temperature, which would include heat sinks, U-verse fan systems, similar to like what they do with the U-verse setup. So I get it that you need the ventilation, but I'm not sure if we're overreaching here. I think I'm okay, as staff's recommending, with the understanding that to allow you to work with staff to achieve some level of buffer separation, whatever you need to call it, to allow the air to circulate for breathability.
Okay.
Okay.
How much space is in there now in the plan between the top and the roof?
It's not really called out, but my rough guess would be 18 inches to 2 feet.
18 inches to 2 feet?
Oh, you think?
But I can't.
Yeah, it's not called out, so it's not clear, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So you don't have a number that you can give us right now?
You might have it.
No, it looks like it's 1.5 feet from the top of the CMU wall to the top of the proposed roofing. So the clearance itself is probably only, I don't know, less than 6 inches, I would say.
You think it's
Using your expertise, what would you guesstimate you would need?
Another foot?
You know, I don't want to tie us down to something that's not physically possible, but maybe if we could word it in such a way that, you know, we could have the covering, you know, contingent upon, you know, safely providing ventilation or something like that to the equipment. That way, we will have a cover as recommended by staff, but we'd ensure that there was no potential overheating issue or something like that.
But I guess my question comes in is regarding Jose Jimenez had just, you know, our commissioner had just mentioned earlier regarding the fact that the RF regulated by the federal government. Who is monitoring that for this particular site? I mean, I don't think we don't have any monitoring, nor does the federal monitor it on a monthly basis, on an annual basis?
No, we provide,
or just out of
we provide the FCC prior to turning on the site, and then periodically, I'm not sure if it's quarterly or annually, or I don't handle the regulatory side, but we provide the FCC all of the RF emissions information as part of our registration initially, and then periodically as well to provide, so we're in full compliance with the RF emissions.
So you're saying that on an annual basis, you do provide that data?
I'm not sure what the actual requirements are, but I know we have to do, before we have any new site and before we modify it, we have to provide all the power and all the RF frequencies, and that's given to the FCC.
Right.
And then I don't know what the periodic timeline is, but obviously we comply with all FCC rules with regard to that. It's not a local issue, and so it's not my specialty because I do city and county. I don't work with the FCC.
Okay.
So on the cover, let me just cover what the conditions say. There's two conditions. One's in the staff report, which is a planning director modification condition. It says plans should be submitted to the building division for the construction of an architectural cover over the existing trash enclosure. So it leaves some flexibility for design, just that it has to have a cover. And the condition in the administrative use permit, which, you know, is kind of follows the same as the existing chain link roofing should be replaced to be a solid Spanish tile roofing material consistent with the existing architecture of the plaza. So the design is somewhat flexible. The conditions allow for flexibility in the design, just not in the flexibility of whether there's a cover or not. So that's what it says now. If you wish to change it, we could craft a alternative conditions.
Yeah, I'm not an expert or an engineer or anything, but I can't imagine if they raised it a foot, you know, that would be bothersome to us. And I would think a foot, there'd be plenty of circulation. I don't know. But maybe, like he said, we can word craft it so we can proceed with it, and then they could work with you on it as to what the height structure would be. Commissioner Manis.
I mean, I would just simply say to the satisfaction of staff or the planning director, and let you guys figure out what's an acceptable height. I'm not necessarily opposed to allowing for more separation. Given that we don't have any information to assign a value, I'm sure staff are capable enough of coming up with that recommendation. I would just simply say, or add a condition that would allow for this to the satisfaction of staff.
We can add that to both those conditions in the planning direction modification and the administrative use permit.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I actually do have another question from, you mentioned that this particular site is for capacity. So when you say capacity, are we looking at the coverage capacity of a data that is current or capacity for the future? Let's say that, because you had mentioned that this is for capacity, is not because it's due to significant gap. So I guess the coverage gap is not the same as capacity gap. Obviously, you did mention earlier that it is a capacity gap.
Correct, yes.
Now, I guess my question is, in terms of capacity gap, so there are real data that exists today that you're doing the informations, that's why you needed this particular cell site? Or is it that into the future, let's say that you're doing the capacity gap for a year from now, 2 years from now? And does that, and then when you do your computer modeling and software projections, is that just an estimate of, like, let's say that, for example, you could say West Covina in that location might increase a population of 10,000 within the next year, and you plug it into your model, an additional 10,000 or so. For the growth or the people anticipating that portion. So I guess the data's in there, which we don't have and we don't know, we just only know that it is a capacity gap. So the question is, does it, I mean, is that an estimate number for the future number, or is it a real number, which we don't have in front of us?
No, it's current needs, current users.
Okay.
So yeah, we don't, we're not sophisticated enough to predict what the, population will be and what type of phone they'll have and we don't even know what 5G is going to be in a couple of years. So we don't know way far out. We know that it's coming and people are going to be using their phones more and more, but it's based on really a desire right now. People have coverage, you can text, you can call,
right.
But if there's too many people in the same area using their phone for the same thing, watching a video or doing any sort of high data use, it lags and it buffers and it just doesn't work as efficiently, and that's what we're trying to fix and make the make the experience better for whoever has a phone currently.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, I do have one more comment about one of the conditions I also spoke with staff about. I'm not sure. It's basically regarding, one of the conditions is removing graffiti within 24 hours. Obviously, any graffiti that's on the property, it's on the site, we'd be happy to fix it as quickly as possible. I just think 24 hours is a little bit fast, particularly if it could come on the weekend or something. So I would recommend, or request, I guess, if we could change it to 48 or 72 hours, just so we have a little bit more time in the unlikely event that there's some graffiti and we can't get to it right away. I don't know if that's, if it's always 24 hours or what the standard is.
Is that possible, Jeff?
This is up to the Planning Commission. That's our standard condition, but it's up to the Planning Commission. Usually what happens is when it's during construction, there are people there at all times, but he's correct, on the weekends, a lot of times there's not. But the idea is that if you're doing construction and you get there in the morning and there's graffiti, fix it right away. Don't wait. So that's the idea.
Okay. I like to keep that.
This is an unmanned facility, by the way, too, so there's no one there from T-Mobile basically ever. So that's part of the reason why it would take a while for us to.
Is that a landlord deal, or is that?
Yeah, I mean, he's correct, and this is a little bit different because we're talking about, if we were trying to enforce that, it would be about what they're doing. If they spray painted on Stater Brothers, that wouldn't have anything to do with these guys. They don't have any control over Stater Brothers, not even the same lot. But even if it was on the same lot on the front of AutoZone, that would be AutoZone's responsibility, not theirs. All we're really talking about here is on their facility, which is going to be hard to get to. But if somebody got up on the roof and spray painted graffiti, we'd want that fixed as quick as possible.
There's also the back portion, right? The equipment.
Where the equipment is, yeah. Those are the two areas we're really talking about.
And he's only responsible for his portion of that enclosure.
Yeah.
So,
I wouldn't have any problem with 48 hours, especially if it's a weekend.
Yeah, I'm fine with that also.
48.
Okay. Yeah, I'm okay with it, or even just saying to the maximum extent feasible. Like, I can lean either way. It's okay.
So it sounds like, well, And you still have the gentleman here, but if, when you're done, we want to close the public hearing and then deliberate, maybe get a motion.
Sure.
And then make those requests for changes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else while you're at it?
No, it's all good. Thank you.
Just checking.
Okay, we'll close the public testimony, open a commission discussion. Who would like to go first?
I think we've had enough discussion about this. I think maybe a motion with a couple recommended changes, if anything. I threw out there regarding the gap or the separation between the roofing material above the enclosure to the satisfaction of staff or the director. And I believe there was discussion about the graffiti removal, possibly bumping that up to 48 hours. I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with 48 as well.
Okay, then I can.
I'm okay with 48.
48, okay.
Motion by Commissioner Manis.
I can say motion by
Well,
Jimenez.
actually, I do want to have a discussions regarding this particular point, is that
What particular point?
the point that we are approving this particular project at this particular site, is that when I'm looking for approval, I'm looking for evidence tonight, but the only thing that I have basically is just a site plan and the building of the particular project. But it doesn't have any real data for me to basically look at and say, hey, you know, there is a need for this. And there's one word on this
Mr. Chairman, I call for a point of order.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I will second the motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Manis and a second by Commissioner Castellanos. Can we have a roll call, please?
We can't have discussion on a motion.
I know, but I want to see if the motion passes first.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second, so I'll go over the roll call. Commissioner Hing?
Well, I like to have a discussion, so we're not having a discussion, and we can't make a decisions on that. So it would be a no for me.
Okay. Commissioner Menes?
Yes.
Commissioner Redholz?
Aye.
Commissioner Castellanos?
Aye.
Chairman Holtz?
Aye. Passes 4-0.
4-1.
Action is final. This appeal to the City Council within 10 days. Brings us to, where are we at here? Non-hearing items? None? Nobody here for continuation of oral. Planning Director's report.
We do have forthcoming before you. We have several items on a couple of hearings on the next meeting. We do have the reorganization as required by the municipal code for the chairman, vice chairman at the first meeting. I'm sorry, the next meeting. And we have items actually for the 22nd. So we'll be having, don't go anywhere in May.
Are we having a meeting on the 8th?
8th and the 22nd, yes.
8th and the 22nd, okay.
Yep.
All right.
And then we have subcommittee minutes that are there for your perusal for February and March meetings. And that's all I have.
City Council action?
City Council did take action on Code Amendment 1405, which is entitlement processing. They approved that. I don't recall there's any changes. There's fairly significant things that are changing there. For instance, houses, we didn't have an AUP and a CUP on this house, but a lot of times we do have an AUP and a CUP. That will be no more. It'll just be a CUP when those things happen. The variance findings are changing, so the next variance you see will have the new findings involved. This will take effect on May 17th. This may be the last planning director's modification you see, that we've done away with those. They're changing the name of those things. There's several other things that are changing, but those are probably the most significant things. That was a long time coming. I appreciate the Planning Commission's role in that. And I think some of those are good, significant changes that will help staff and applicants as we go into the future.
Okay.
That's all.
Nothing further. Meeting is adjourned. Oh, Commissioner Jimenez.
Just three quick ones. One, for the 22nd, Jeff, I previously mentioned this. I will be out of, I will not be available, I should say, for that particular meeting. I have a previous engagement with my employer to attend a conference. Jeff, as part of the recommendation for the modern house, I kind of was being truthful about maybe there's an opportunity for future site visits just to see what these products look when they're finally built. I think it would help us if we have the the blessings, as they say, of being able to be around. I would like to look at that to maybe understand some of these issues. I don't want to use the word perceived, but these potential issues that may come up. And then just finally, we had, I think, a lengthy discussion tonight related to wireless telecom. My fears this evening related to some of that discussion, it somewhat, we kind of deviated from what we were being asked to do this evening. Nonetheless, to possibly encourage, if there's an opportunity for a very light possible discussion, if we can invite the city attorney's office to maybe just give us a quick study session. I would be interested in updates, since the ordinance has changed, and maybe just remind us of what our role and purview is when making decisions related to wireless telecom. Again, yes, I think there was good topics, I understand, but I'm not sure that tonight was nailing it on to a particular entitlement was fair to the applicant. So I would rather have that discussion as a singular discussion, freestanding and independent of a decision before this commission.
Okay. We can do that.
That's a really good idea. I like that very much. And I was hoping that our city attorney would be here tonight, that we can ask him some question as well. Thank you.
And my comment on the city attorney is if there's any time when you need the city attorney here, you're not going to know until you're here, but you simply ask for the item to be continued and we'll ask the city attorney to come. That's generally a more efficient way to do things than to have the city attorney here all the time. Just simply there's an economic issue to that. So.
It seems to me, though, every time we talk about cellular, we have a problem. So maybe every time we have cellular on the agenda, maybe we got to ask.
The city attorney we do have him here next week, or next meeting, specifically for the ADU, because that's also a state law issue. That's why I'm here. Okay.
Well, I'd like to make a statement, though, regarding Don, what he had mentioned. I mean, when we're making a decisions for the whole city as the commissioners and part of the community, I do like to understand and know how I make the decisions, whether it's legally correct or whether it's not. Without that information, we're just guessing, and I do not want to be guessed, especially it's affecting the whole populations here. So no, I do not have a problem with all the issues. However, I like to understand and I like to educate myself, and also, to be able to know what is our rights, what is our community's right. So without knowing that, how can we make decisions affecting all the community?
We should be prepared with that beforehand, before the meeting.